go. A few minutes early. I was literally sitting here just being like, I'm going to wait 4 minutes. Forget it. I'm going to start 4 minutes early, and you can't stop me. What are you going to do about it? Oh, yeah. Another day. You know what, man? I got to be real straight with you guys. I've been having a really, really good day today. Today was a really, really nice day. I woke up, getting the yoga in. I strongly advise to everybody, try to get like 20 minutes of yoga into your life if you can. There's a great website called Do Yoga With Me. You can find like beginner level, like literally like sit on the floor and like stretch your leg, like nothing, like no, you're not doing like, you know, bend over backwards, do a handstand. Today we're going to stand on our heads while we put our toes in our ears. Like none of that. And it like the last 2 weeks since my Uncle Garvin passed away. I've been really, really having a tough time and like really falling into kind of an inertness and letting my internal energy and letting myself just sort of fall down. And that started to manifest itself into like physical pain, like especially in my neck, like really, really just not feeling good and starting to feel like my stomach was hurting all the time and like just brutal feeling. And so I used to do like an hour of pretty intense, like not intense, like intermediate level yoga a day. Like that's where I used to be, like, and this is years back, and of course COVID and everything blows this all apart. And so I started thinking to myself, boy, I just got to start getting back into yoga. And so I just started doing like the beginner level, like anyone can do the beginner level stuff that you find on this website. Do Yoga With Me. 20 minutes is going to go by and like that's less than an episode of Friends. Like anybody can do this. And it has really, really, really instantly, like just like boom, instantaneously, like the pain is gone. I can feel my internal kind of self realigning. Like you guys know me, I talk about the chakras and all this kind of stuff, and I really believe in it or acknowledge it, however you want to say it. And and so I did some today, and man, I was just like immediately felt productive, cleaned my apartment, right? Like I got it nicely swept up, all this kind of stuff, did all my dishes, went around. And you know what else it really, really helped me with? I gotta tell you, is that I experience a lot of hate in what I do. Like when I'm sifting around and like looking around the internet, like people throw hate at me all the fucking time. I get shit on all the time. And it really helps me. Like when you do some yoga, it really centers you. And it creates like a firm protective shield around you so that when the hate comes, it just, and you really see these kind of people for what they are, right? Like there's children in the conversation, like old children, like 60-year-old children in the conversation who like literally have drunk the Kool-Aid, are literally sitting there being like, capitalism's the best system it's ever been. And I believe that because the government gave my daddy a hand and my daddy gave me everything. And so I stood up and you need to stand up too. Like, this is the nature of the conversation. Like, there's a reason why capitalism is on a sharp decline. And why capitalism is on a sharp decline. And socialism and communism and these sorts of ideas are on the incline, right? There's a reason for it. And you just need to talk to these guys. Like, go talk to some of these, like, Jordan Peterson followers. You're going to find out pretty quickly, like, oh, like, yikes. There's lots of yikes in the conversation. Like, a lot of denigration and insults. Like, a lot of, like, really dark shit is starting to come to the forefront. As these guys start to, like, kind of get a little demented, honestly. I'm going to talk about some of that as we go on. There's one article in particular that I think has tipped, like, the Jordan Peterson, Rex Murphy sort of crowd into like, okay, like you got, this is weird now, right? And I'll talk about that. Hey Ken, how you doing today? Good to see you, bud. Do I meditate? I try. I always find it helpful. The best time to do like a meditation session is right after you do some yoga, right? Get yourself nicely centered. Do some meditation, and like I always try to articulate this stuff secularly, like as from a secular position. What meditation is doing is it's giving you the opportunity to train your brain to just get rid of shit. Like literally, like your brain will just manifest nonsense all the time, right? That's part of how the brain works. And if you don't actually train yourself to like just release it, just to go like, ooh, and send it into the atmosphere, then you can get really caught in anxiety cycles. You can get really caught in obsession cycles. You can get really caught in a lot of stuff. And sometimes those obsession cycles aren't so bad because they inspire like creativity and you can create something, right? All that kind of stuff. But the anxiety stuff and the anxiety spiraling and all and the depression cycling that happens. So meditation helps kind of train your brain to be like, okay, that cycle that you're going through, you literally can just release it, right? You can just be like, oh, all of that just can go and just vanish, right? And yoga helps a lot with that, and meditation helps a lot with that, and really just training your brain and your body to just be like, I don't need to get caught in this worry cycle. I don't need to get caught in this anxiety cycle. I don't need to get caught in any of that. I can just release it and exist in the space and exist in the universe as I am, right? As just a human being, right? Who's just dealing with the nonsense that's around me, you know? Hey, Rob, how you doing today, bud? Good to see you. It's going well. I'm having a great day today, honestly. I'm having a really good day. I feel like I've been really personally productive, improving my space, improving myself, improving my surroundings, right? Getting back on track to where I want to be as a person, right? I think that I think it's always good to sort of treat like this is the annoying thing about the capitalist system that we live in, right? Like it's all about like they're constantly telling you like it's personal responsibility, it's about yourself, it's all this kind of stuff, but it's not about improving yourself. It's about improving someone else's business. Like it's about selling yourself to a business, and it's annoying. It's an annoying way to look. I want to tune in when you're describing tomorrow's big protests. Maybe you should wait till later when more people are in. Oh yeah, I'll be talking about tomorrow's protests, like 3 p.m. Tomorrow. Come on down if you're in the city. Come on down, and I'm probably going to be late for tomorrow's cast, so that's real, right? I'm going to be late for tomorrow's cast, and just that's life. That's life, baby. That's life. What do I feel like playing? Because I got the guitar sitting here. I'm gonna play this one. I'm probably gonna screw this one up. I've been screwing this one up recently, and I don't know why. I think it's because I'm trying to do it from memory, and I don't have the words in front of me. Let's see if I can do it. See already. There we go. Baby, how was I supposed to know? Something wasn't right here. Oh, pretty baby, I shouldn't have let you go. Now you're out of sight, and show me how you want it to be. Tell me, babe, I need to know now what we got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe when I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time. Oh, pretty baby, the reason I breathe is you. Girl, you got me flying. Oh, pretty baby, there's nothing that I wouldn't do. It's not the way I planned it. Show me how you want it to be. Tell me now. I need to know now what we got. My loneliness is killing me. I must confess I still believe when I'm not with you I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby, hit me baby one more time. Hi Alex, I love you too, bud. Good to see you. I love playing that song, dude. I love playing that song. Cause like my favorite part about it is like the more serious you commit to how like the intensity and like the drama of it, the better it is. The better it is. Cause everyone like walks into that when you start playing that song, everybody walks into it like you're like, oh, chortle chortle tee hee tee hee. But if you pause and you like listen to those lyrics, man, like those lyrics are pretty harsh. Like those are pretty intense lyrics. Like if Chris Cornell had been playing that tune instead of like 15-year-old Britney Spears, people would have been like, oh my God, right? What a powerful and oh my God. But so it's I love the like layering of it. I love that there's like an emotional like layering of that song that it's simultaneously silly but also quite serious. And then you layer in like what happened to Britney and like what she was going through while she was playing that song and like the reality of like she was used as a commodity in order to like pitch herself in that song and to make money for her dad and the whole like Free Britney movement and all that. Ugh. All right. Let's do the number drop. And then I'll play one more song and then we'll get into the news. So everybody pick your number. Pick your number. Here we go from Mr. David Lynch himself.
Here we go for today's number. It's December 14th.
Desi all in with a 9. Hey Barnabas, how you doing, bud?
10 balls.
10 balls.
Each
Pissed off
ball
Canadian,
has
you,
a number. Numbers 1 through 10.
Swirl the number.
Swirl the number.
I'm gonna go with a 2. I'm gonna go with a 2. Here we go.
Pick a number.
Here we are. Drum roll. We got a 50% chance of hitting this.
Number is
5.
5.
Womp, 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 womp. No winner today. But so I finally organized this book. Well, organized it by like tearing out the unneeded sheets. So 1, 2. Well, yeah, that's life. 3, 4. Ooh, okay. Here's I haven't played this song in a long time, so this is going to be a clusterfuck. Of course, David Lynch. How dare you, Mr. Lynch? How dare you pick the song that I haven't practiced in a long time? Johnny comes home with gin on his breath, mean spirit and a club in his hand. Jenny braces for another long night. She's gonna learn her place, her body's in demand. And the children cry, just stop. Ahmed gathers his kids around, running underground while fire falls from the sky. Black boots plunder their inheritance, spread democracy or you better die. children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. The children cry, just stop. I'll give that performance a B. A B. Still working on this piece. I'm still working on this piece. I feel like I need more on this piece. I need more on this piece. I'm not satisfied with this piece. All right. Here we go. Let us go in today's news. So we're gonna start with the stuff that came out of the Patreon, out of the Discord, right? I want to start giving the Patreon stories more credence, right? So we got 3 Canadians, right, with mental health conditions receive legal access to psilocybin mushrooms. I gotta be straight with you guys. Like, legalize all drugs. The evidence is in, right? The facts are on the table, right? We know that the criminalization of drugs, first of all, the criminalization of drugs here in North America was done explicitly to give the state the authority to destroy groups they wanted to destroy, right? The Black Panthers, the hippie movement, right? They couldn't go in and destroy them because they wanted to, just because they wanted to. So they had to make up an excuse, and the excuse they decided on was drugs. That's the start, the impetus of the drug war, the failed drug war, a total failure. Like no, not even a single success has come out of the drug war from a like civil rights or a society building perspective, right? It's been very successful for creating a slave society, is what it's done. Like it's ballooned the prison industrial complex, which itself has been privatized. There's absolutely no reason. Like, people should not have to ask permission to ingest anything. And I honestly don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, whatever you want, bud. Like, whatever you want. You want to do it? Great. Just as long as you're honest about what you're doing. Like, if somebody's walking around being like, yeah, I smoke nicotine and it's perfectly healthy. I'm going to be like, okay, bud. Like, there are negative effects. Like, that you should know about, right? But as long as people know what they're doing, and as long as everybody's making their own decisions and weighing things and all that, and incidentally, like all of the evidence shows, like all of it, this isn't like a big like, oh, there's lots of data and some of it's contradictory and all this. Literally, all the evidence shows that if you decriminalize drugs in your society, drug use goes down. First of all, you stop arresting people, right? You stop imprisoning people, and it stops putting a burden on the state, so you stop needing to pay for these prisons and all of this stuff. So if you catch a person with a fucking plant walking around, right? Like, and then people who get caught in a cycle of drugs can actually get help because they know they're not going to go to jail for it, right? It also manages to so it creates a healthier society. It creates, it reduces costs for your society, right? It lets people get cleaned up. It lets people focus on rebuilding their life instead of constantly criminalizing. Oh yeah, and it also, what else does it do? Oh, it removes the element of the underbelly of crime, right? Like the reason why people are getting these drugs is because some drug lord is giving it to them. Well, you remove that element and you allow like a legitimate businessman to provide the service instead. And what does that do? Oh, it lets you tax that person, right? And since when have facts and data stopped the state? Yeah, certainly in the United States, like certainly here in North America, we don't really care about facts and data. We care about our ideology, right? Which is why we're a death cult. Also loving the R Conspiracy subreddit. How you doing, Vince? Dude, don't spend too much time on R Conspiracy. R Conspiracy used to be better. It's crazy now. Like, our conspiracy is just like the rabbit hole of madness, right? Because now you got like QAnon and you got all this crazy stuff going on. And our conspiracy always was like pretty off on the fringes, but now it's like really, really wonky. It's really, really wonky. Hey DM, how you doing? First of all, I do want to point something out here, Vince. I don't think it's good that Hassan and Vosh got banned on Twitch, especially not for the reasons why they got banned on Twitch. Like, I feel like their banning comes, like, a big complaint I have a lot about, like, YouTube and Twitch and all this kind of stuff is that they can take a hammer and just, like, hammer down on you, and you don't really understand why, right? These social media outlets have like hard, firm lines built in, and they don't tell you what they are, right? They don't tell you what the firm, hard lines are. You just get hit with them, right? That's my big complaint. I guarantee, if Twitch had sent an email to Hassan and Vosh and had said to them like, we don't want you to say this word any longer, and we are considering, like, this is going to be a bannable offense, right? And we will go through your material and we'll censor it out and we'll cut and all that kind of stuff. I bet you anything, both Vosh and Twitch would have been like, okay, I disagree, but whatever, right? Like, it's your platform, right? Like, and I don't think it would have been controversial at all, but because they turned around and were just like, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary to live in that environment, right? If they allowed them, then they should allow Alex Jones and other crazies online as well. I mean, like, but the rationale for getting rid of them, it was because they were using what's being called now the C word, which is like I don't want to even say it because like people are getting banned for it, right? But it's like the white person slur, right? Like it's not. I don't know. I feel like I do feel like it was unwarranted. Like I don't really care about Hassan or Vosh, really. Like I consider them like shock jocks. You know what I mean? Like this is where I'm landing finally on these guys. Is that Vosh and Hassan are just shock jocks, right? They don't organize. They don't really create anything. Like Hassan is attempting to live in a place where there's truth, but he's not really a threat to anybody because he's not really galvanizing people or doing anything with it, right? He just sort of sits in his room and talks about stuff. Vosh is literally a shock jock. Like his most recent statement about Assange should convince you of that. And like, it's so they shouldn't get as much attention as they do because they're like Howard Stern, right? Like that's who they are. They're just like a Howard Stern who is just saying crazy things to get attention. Like that's it. That's their whole business model. And that's what they care about. They care about their business model. They don't really care about a movement. They don't really care about any of that. So, breaking news, Bill C2 being debated, House Commons. Green and NDP want a UBI bill instead of C2. Libs and Cons MP against a basic income, citing communism. What an embarrassing thing to do. Can you imagine actually citing communism as a reason to be against a basic income? No communist nation has ever used a basic income, right? Like, if anything, a basic income is a capitalist solution, right? Like, you get $200 for pass and go, right? You get $200 for pass and go, right? Even in, like, the brutal representation of monopoly capitalism. It's like, yeah, but you pass go, so here's $200. Right? Built into the structure of the system is the idea that, well, everybody should get a little bit of capital just for existing, right? No, fuck you, get bent, right? Get out of the conversation, fucking losers. Too bad. So the idea that like liberals and conservatives are standing up and saying like the basic income is communism shows you either they're completely disingenuous liars, which they are, or they're just clueless illiterates, which they are. So it's both. It's like a little column A, a little column B. And again, it comes down to just the reality of the populace, right? The populace isn't really that well informed about communism. Just standing up and being like, didn't the communists do a bunch of evil shit? While we literally sell weapons to the Saudi Arabians to enact a Yemeni genocide, while we literally invade like the Wet'suwet'en lands, while we literally like the Palestinian genocide, for God's sakes, like the buildup of arms and like nuclear arms now on the Ukrainian-Russian border, right? Like it is getting like very embarrassing. Like it's getting very, very embarrassing to stand up and be like, well, communism did all kinds of bad things. And I was like, the scale is not the same. The scale is not the same. Like, even if you capitulate on the evil things that communists did, right? Even if you did, right? The stack is not the same. Like, if you were to take, like, if I were to take a poker chip and, like, be like, okay, communists did this, capitalists did this, and then pile them up, and just uncritically, like, anything a capitalist says, I'll just be like, okay, I won't even defend it. I won't even. I'll just be like, okay. And if you stacked them up, you'd find very quickly, like, communists would be like this, and capitalists would just be going through the roof, right? Like, it's not, like, it's, the scale is much different. Like, and I love it when capitalists are like, communism, because, like, they don't consider things like World War II to be, like, a capitalist atrocity, when it very explicitly is. Like, the amount of veneration we have about, like, yeah, World War II. Yeah, that was a capitalist war where capitalists fought amongst each other and then invaded communist nations. Like, so, like, one of the most egregious, brutal periods in the history of capitalism. And, like, that ended with the nuclear bombardment of 2 civilian targets by capitalists. And you're just like, yeah, it's communism that's the problem. Yeah. Man, I'd really hate to live in a society where legally only 4% of my income could be used as rent. Boy, would that suck. Oh, I'd be so annoyed if only 4% of my income was being taken instead of 60. Yeah, how fucking annoying. These liberals and conservatives need to be chased out of the conversation, dude. Like, they're such losers. Like, they're enormous losers. Like, just the wholesale abandonment of their own children. Right? And go online and start talking to these people. You realize very quickly, like, these people don't care about their own children. They literally are just like, well, whatever happens to them, I'll be dead, who cares? Right? Like, this high level of nihilism that exists in the liberal and conservative mindset. It's well, in the death cult generally, right? Yeah. It's not even a racial slur. On Friday, the 12-member House Finance Committee agreed to finish its review of Bill C2. Well, let's get real specific, because this Bill C2, yeah, it's already coming up. Everybody's getting hot to trot about it. Freeland's fall update coming this PM. It's short. Parliament's getting things done. Bill C2. Here we go. Summary. Amends the Income Tax Act and the income tax regulations to extend subsidies under the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy, and the Canada Recovering Hiring Program until May 7th, right? So the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy is the support. I'll say this in the nicest way I can. It's the support for the businesses, right? It's completely been used as a slush fund for billionaires, right? I could do a search and find you the report on that, but, like, so the support system for businesses was so poorly designed, and purposefully poorly designed, so that instead of it being like, I am an independent business person who is running my own shop, right? And, I need some support through this period of time, right? There's some of that's going on, certainly. But for the most part, the program is just like, I am Amazon. I will eat this money and put it in an offshore account. More money, please. Right? There's a reason why the billionaire class is making money hand over fist over this period of time, and it's programs like this. The Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy and the Canada Recovery Hiring Program, right? These are the more direct benefits. And the goal, of course, of all of this is to eliminate all of it, right? To just abandon the populace to the capitalist death cult and just be like, well, we're done, right? Anyway. Extend the period which a person may be eligible. Increase the maximum number of weeks in respect to which Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit is payable. But the goal of it is to structure in such a way so that no one can ever really be eligible. Like, that's the goal of it, right? There's a lot on private terms, just like the N-word or the C-word. It's best not to use any racial slur. Yeah, it's best not to use any racial slur, really. C2 benefits no one. It's a joke. Yeah, exactly. We need to extend CRB. Yeah. No, yeah, like, if they don't implement a UBI soon, the death rates from poverty are going to skyrocket. By this time next year, we won't even have a workforce because we'll all be effing dead. Look, there's a reason why people are bailing. Like, there's a reason. Like, for God's sakes, I've seen things where people are. There are stories coming out now. I don't know. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I've seen stories where like management was taking bets on which one of their staff they thought would get COVID next, right? Like, oh, is this it right here? Yeah, here you go. Their managers literally had bets on the lives as they got sick and died. Maybe that's why there's not so many chicky tenders, right? Like, because when processing workers started dying of COVID, their depraved managers started placing cash bets on who would die next, right? Like, this is a mutiny. It's a mutiny. We're tired of this shit. We're tired of being treated like shit, right? We're tired of this absolute asinine psychopath class who is overt in their psychopathic nature. Like, they'll outright tell you how psychopathic they are. Right? Like, you'll be having a very reasonable conversation, right? Asking very reasonable questions. And like, just today I had a guy say that like disabled people should die. Right? Just today. Like, those people are out there. They vote conservative and liberal, right? For sure. Like, and these are the people who have taken control of the halls of power, right? These are the people who own the society, right? These and like, who are depraved sociopaths going to put in positions of management and power? They're going to put other sociopaths, right? I know, bud. Sociopaths. Milo's over here burping away. I know, dude. I'm with you. Boh. Oh, boh. Right? Milo's got lots to say. About that. Ugh. Let's get rid of that one. I don't think they even want slaves anymore. I think they're for an outright physical termination of the poor class. Whenever they need cheap labor, they'll lure in overpopulated foreigners. Exactly. No, you got to think, like, there is a part of me that does actually think, like, if I was a psychopath, right, like, and I wanted to, like, kill people, I want to get off on killing people, right, like, perfect. Here comes a disease that gets the job done for me, and I get to just sit back and watch, knowing that I could prevent all of this, knowing that I have the power to actually alleviate this. And instead of doing any of that, I get to manipulate all of these forces. I get to, like, have politicians who are literally arguing to kill as many people as possible for money, right? Like, if I was a psychopath right now, I would be, like, every night I would be going to bed giggling. I would just be, like, over the moon about how many people I'm responsible for killing, right? Like, this is a death cult. They enjoy it, right? Don't fucking fool yourselves. Like, don't fucking fool yourselves. These guys are laughing about it, right? And the people, and you can tell. Like, you can tell. Look at the people who defend them, right? Look at the people who defend them. They're like the most reprehensible, despicable people you'll ever meet. And then you think to yourself, like, oh, here are people who, like, want to discard the disabled, are happy to destroy the elderly, are happy to destroy the poor, right? They're happy about it. They'll tell you how happy they are about it, right? And then you think, like, oh, let's give that guy $1 billion, right? Yeah, they're going to happily do this kind of stuff and giggle gleefully about it, right? Like, the only reason they don't just openly publish this stuff in newspapers is because they know that, like, that's a bridge too far. Like, but it's going to get there, right? They're not going to be able to help themselves. Like, do you guys understand? Like, these guys are supervillains. Like, do you understand? There's going to come a moment where the billionaires are going to openly publish in their articles and in their things, they're going to openly gloat about how many people they're responsible for killing. It's coming. It's coming. You missed it, Mocked. You missed it. It was a 5. It was a 5. Drat. Good to see you, though, Mocked. Good to see you, bud. We need massive pro-UBI protests at MPs' offices all around the country. I truly believe this is how real change starts. A coordinated, organized effort to change the political will of these MPs. I mean, you guys know me. Like, we need to surround the halls of power and redraw the Constitution. Like, that's what needs to happen. That the system itself is corrupted. Like, and can't be reclaimed. It literally can't be reclaimed. Like, maybe there would be a path for that in like Canada and like throughout Europe and all that. But in the United States, like it's fucking over, dude. Like it's over. Like you're not going to be able to reclaim it. Like people do not understand how much $1 billion is. Like once you actually get it into your brain, how much $1 billion is, and you begin to interact in the world thinking how much actually $1 billion actually is, you really begin to realize that like the crime is just a person having $1 billion. Like it shouldn't be allowed. It simply shouldn't be allowed. Like we don't allow private citizens to have nuclear bombs. I don't see why we allow them to have $1 billion, right? Like and I look at it that way. Like greed is one of the 7 deadly sins for a reason. And this idea that the best way to structure your society is by just capitulating to greed is asinine. Bezos was smiling and taking space photo ops the other day after one of his building collapses, kills over a dozen employees. Yeah, exactly. Like, they don't care. Like, they don't care. Surround the halls of power, 401, 402 blockades. It's our last resort. Yeah, we either swim for our lives or die drowning. Exactly. Exactly. They want us to die silently. Like, it really is that clear. Like, they want us to die silently. America, no, just learn Spanish and get out of there. I mean, if you can. If you can. I mean, does Bezos have the capability to build a nuke? Probably. But, like, if Bezos started building a nuke, the United States government would be like, hey, bud, we can't help but notice that you're purchasing all of the things required to build a nuclear bomb. Maybe not. Like, maybe not. I do think there are bridges too far. But I mean, like, Bezos and Musk are both part of the military-industrial complex. Like, all of this, like, we're going to go to Mars talk is total fuck. It's just a cover, right? It's just a cover so that they can do, like, the stuff that Bezos and Musk do, we would never, ever, ever tolerate the military doing, right? Ever. But because they're like private investors being like, oh, to the moon, yeah, to Mars, we're going to go to Mars, ha, ha, ha. Everybody's just like, yeah, we're going to go to Mars. We're going to go to Mars, yeah, ha, ha, ha. It's perfectly reasonable to build a satellite system that can transport weapons everywhere across the globe in an instant, right? Like, that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah. It's totally normal to have a giant blimp that's full of 1,000 drones that can descend on a city. Perfectly normal. Ha 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 ha. Isn't the future grand? Like, these guys have military contracts. They are embedded in the military, for sure. Like, this idea that these guys are doing all of this stuff so that they could, like, they have to know that the Mars thing is bullshit. Like, they have to know that. It's Milo, you have peanut butter all up in here. What's this? What's all this? What's all this? Milo. 7.3 magnitude earthquake hits off the coast of Indonesia. Yep. That's natural disasters abound, right? I haven't seen anything to convince me that the earthquakes are part of the climate change issue. Good seeing you too, Alex. Have a good one, bud. Enjoy your karate. Man, I've got energy today. Look at this. Look at this. Don't get used to it. The U.S. hadn't built a plutonium core for 40 years. I don't know if I understand the comment, Grinning. But here's what's going on in India, right? Delhi, 48 degrees Celsius. Lucknow, 48 degrees. Patna, 45 degrees. Bhopal, 46. Ahmedabad, 46. Right? What was the temperature in Lytton when it burned down? Oh my God. So let's say 121 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. 121 Fahrenheit to Celsius. So 49 in Lytton, right? So 49 degrees, right? 48. Like, India is going to be uninhabitable very soon, right? Like, how long will it be until the temperature just ignites these places, right? Until Delhi is just ignited. Just up it goes. right? How long until they're like their structures literally bake them? Like not too much longer. Not too much longer. Like India is going to become like absolutely. Chat asked if Bezos could build a nuke. Even the US can't build a nuke right now. I don't know if that's true, bud. Interesting though, because I know that there was a escalation of building nukes. How many nukes has the US built? Interesting. Let's just take a quick look. Nuclear weapons of the United States. I mean, it's terrifying what's going on with this conversation, right? Yeah, why is America getting a $100 billion nuclear weapon? Like, and the Oxus deal is them building nuclear submarines and stuff. And the Bush administration, like, famously began escalating the nuclear plan. So, I mean, I believe they have been escalating their nuclear stockpile. Let's take a quick look. America is building a new weapon of mass destruction, a nuclear missile, the length of a bowling lane. It will be able to travel some 6,000 miles, carrying a warhead more than 20 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It will be able to kill hundreds of thousands of people in a single shot. The U.S. Air Force plans to order more than 600 of them. Like, maybe not? Like, maybe not, right? Like, simply building these things is a war crime, in my view. Like, simply building these things is just absolutely, like, beyond the pale. Like, why build them? Why do you need these? What are they for? What are you doing? Right? And it literally is just like, we're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to just wank. That's literally all it is. Because they can't use them. Because if they use them, it's literally the end of all life. Like, and this is what, like this is what I'm talking about with this, like, why has super villainy become so goddamn normal? Like, why are we literally being like, yep, that's what's gonna happen, you know? Totally normal, a world-ending device. We're just gonna build, like, they're building the fucking doomsday machines, dude. Like, they're building them. Like, it really is as if there's, like, some super evil, like, villain off the coast of wherever in, like, a skull island, like, cranking away on a missile, being like, and we're all just being like, yep, completely normal. Like, no, it's not completely normal at all. Like, this is unhinged madness. This is unhinged madness. That, like, amidst, like, we like, temperatures going up like this, amidst all of this crazy nonsense, we're building nuclear bombs. Like, it's a hysteria. It's just a mass hysteria. Like, no, it for real. Like, if this was a video game, and, like, let's say this was like a game of Civilization, right? And you, like, loaded it in, right? And you looked around and saw, okay, what is everybody doing? Like, what's everybody doing to the world and all this kind of stuff? You would really just think to yourself, like, everyone's lost their goddamn minds. Like, everyone's lost their goddamned minds. It's incredible, the scale of the madness. Like, the scale of the hysteria is it's intense. It's fucking intense. Because, like, and people have accused me of being, like, a conspiracy theorist or any of this, and none of this is a conspiracy, right? It's a hysteria. That's the difference. Like, a conspiracy implies that there's, like, a cabal at the very top of it getting together and being like, and then we'll do this, and that will mean this that we will do, right? And, like, sure, some of that happens, right? Like, that's just rich people. Like, Bilderberg Conference exists. But, like, no, what we are looking at is not conspiratorial. It's a hysteria where even the wealthy are going to get completely ramrodded, right? This is not going to spare anybody. I don't care how much money you have. Like, I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how many resources you have. Climate change is going to ramrod you in huge and significant ways. And we're just going to let it happen. We're just going to be like, oh yeah, okay, normal. Fucking totally normal. right? Like I have this bold climate action needs a basic income, yeah? Don't be a fossil fool. Here's a great article actually, right over here, right? What have I been saying on this channel all the time? That the bill for ignoring climate change is going to be much higher than simply abiding by the rules of climate change, right? Like, here, a big fat bill for Doug Ford's climate negligence is coming for Ontario. Ontarians head to the polls in 6 months. It's hard to predict what the public mood will be on June 2nd as voters make their way to the ballot box, but it's safe to say, aside from having a chance to weigh in on how they felt the pandemic was managed in the province, issues around affordability will be top concern for most. And if you care about affordability, you should care about climate change. While conservative politicians across Canada have done a very good job of maligning climate change mitigation as fundamentally unaffordable, the reality is, if we don't act now on climate change, we'll be dealt a much higher bill down the road. In 2019, Green Party of Ontario leader Mike Schreiner called on the Financial Accountability Office to report on the financial cost of climate change, specifically the financial impact on the province's public assets. On December 7th, the report was released. Here's a great opportunity to point something out, okay, guys? I'm going to continue on with this, but people do ask me in the chat all the time. They're like, hey, where do you get your information, all this kind of stuff? So here's somebody who's reporting on something, and they say on December 7th, the report was released. So here's the source document. Hang on to the source document, right? Bookmarked, add bookmark. You now have the source document, right? It's important to note the report itself was limited to direct costs on public assets. Indirect costs, such as deaths, power outages, supply chain disruptions, or damage to privately owned buildings, were not covered. Additionally, the report only focused on 3 aspects of climate change: extreme heat, extreme rainfall, and freeze-thaw cycles. Buddy, so much peanut butter. Go get the peanut butter. And even with those limitations, the figures in the report are daunting. In the medium emissions scenario, the FAO estimates that by 2100, additional infrastructure-related costs of maintaining Ontario's public buildings could range from $29 billion, 3.7% higher than baseline, to $134 billion, 16.8% by 2100. In the high emissions scenario, these additional costs could range from $55 billion to $232 billion. In the nearer term, assuming a stable climate for the rest of this decade, a big assumption, we're looking at a massive increase. The FAO estimates that in the absence of adaptation, the cumulative cost of maintaining public buildings in a state of good repair will increase by about $6 billion relative to baseline spending in stable climate over the remainder of this decade. None of this is good news. It is particularly grim once one considers that Doug Ford and the PCs haven't just stalled on the climate file, but have been actively hostile to meaningful action on climate change. One of the first policy actions of the Ford government was to cancel Ontario's cap-and-trade program, which led to the scrapping of a number of green initiatives, including retrofitting homes and businesses with more energy-efficient technologies and rebates for electric vehicles. The Ford government also canceled hundreds upon hundreds of renewable energy projects and famously lost a court battle that compelled gas stations to put stickers rife with misleading information about the federal price on carbon on the pumps. With Ford at the helm, Ontario has undoubtedly slid backwards in the fight against climate change with myopic and populist policy decisions. Ford might not care about the climate in the same way or for the same reasons that more left-leaning politicians do, and ultimately, we don't need him to. We just need him to take the profound implications of climate change seriously. If the loss or human or animal life isn't convincing, then perhaps the fiscal impacts will be. No reasonable person can contend climate change does not pose significant costs. In addition to the daunting numbers of the FAO report, consider the fact that according to the Insurance Bureau of Canada, Insured damage caused by extreme weather events cost $2.4 billion in 2020. Climate change is already costing us a lot of money. In the last election, the progressive conservatives were wildly successful in framing the issue of climate change action as being an affront to regular everyday voters. Indeed, Ford and the PCs tried to paint anyone who understood the science behind climate change and was compelled to want to do something about it as an out-of-touch elitist hell-bent on wasting taxpayer dollars. Ford basically built his political brand as being the definitive champion of the taxpayer. It's all but certain that in the upcoming campaign, Ford and the Ontario PCs will once again claim to be the only party that respects taxpayers and their hard-earned dollars. However, without meaningful policies to help mitigate the worst impacts of climate change, the claim to be looking out for taxpayers falls apart. Oh, that was the end of it. I should have been like, falls apart. But anyway, like, there is no retreat position from here, except into delusion and ideology, right? That the death cult can't even say how you're going to pay for that. They literally can't say it because everything they're suggesting is more expensive, right? So not only are they losing the battle practically, not only are they losing the battle ideologically, they've lost the battle fiscally. We literally can just say it's cheaper. Every single time they stand up and say, well, how are you going to pay for that? You literally can just say it's cheaper and the conversation's over. You don't need to go deeper than that. You don't. You literally can just say it's cheaper and then look at them. And then they'll be like, well, what do you mean it's cheaper? And then you can say things like, well, take like the basic income, for example. Well, like shelters, emergency services, police services, right? Like food banks, these things cost money, right? And when you actually look at it, it's far more money than just a basic income would cost, right? That's why the food banks of Canada are saying we should have a basic income and eliminate the food banks of Canada, right? That's from the food banks of Canada directly, right? Like and the same is true of climate change, right? We've got to do something about climate change. We've got to mitigate. Well, how are you going to pay for that? It's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's cheaper to spend the money to mitigate the cost now and try to reduce emissions than it is to pay for the damages later, right? Like this is easy. Like this is easy stuff. And the reason why there is even a conversation about it is because there are people who are caught in a mass hysteria. That's all it is. It's a mass hysteria surrounding a religious ideology that says, capitalism works. And it fundamentally does not. Which is why it's called a capitalist death cult. Right? It's a capitalist system that, bereft of all evidence, facts, or reasons, is doubling down on itself like a cult, with the end result being mass death and devastation. Capitalist death cult. Like, it's fundamentally true. And the people who are defending the system are some of the most reprehensible people out there. You ever look into peak oil? Oh yeah, we've already hit peak oil. Like, we're already on the other side of it. You can take a look at nations like Saudi Arabia, who know that we're well over the point of peak oil, and now it's just about like taking that oil and using it to get to the next stage. And Saudi Arabia is like an evil country, like for sure. Like the leaders of that country are like depraved Machiavellian, like evil overlords, but they're brilliant. They're brilliant. They're setting themselves up to be a real powerhouse in the region for the foreseeable future, right? Like, Saudi Arabia is really one of these nations that really does show you, like, if you have an established state function, right? If you've got an established group of rulers who have been there and have maintained their power for generations over time, like, that is an effective way to organize your state. For sure it is. Because, like, when the Americans pull out of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is just going to pivot right on over to China. right? The big concern for Saudi Arabia is that like other powers in the area might actually go to war with Saudi Arabia, and there's lots of really good reasons to want to go to war with Saudi Arabia if you are in like Iraq or Afghanistan or Turkey or Yemen or Oman or Egypt, right? Huge amount of reasons to want to go to war with Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is going to pivot themselves in such a way that it's not going to be diplomatically beneficial or possible for those countries to go to war with Saudi Arabia. And in the end, Saudi Arabia will end up attempting to become their allies, right? By proxy, by sucking up to China. And everybody's going to be sucking up to China, and everybody's going to be trying to recover from the devastation wrought on them by the Americans. And Saudi Arabia is just going to be like, yeah, hey, we're all just going to like be cool together, right? And everybody's going to be like, grumble, grumble. But like if they go to war with Saudi Arabia, China's going to be like, hey, don't. And they're going to be like, okay. Like, that's what's going to happen. And it's brilliant. The Saudi Arabians, the Saudis are like super geniuses. Like, they really are going to come out of this looking really good. Great presentation on a great book from last week here on YouTube titled Richard Heinberg, Power, Limits, and Prospects for Human Survival. Oh my God. It's all over the place. Everything we want to be. Here, let's get rid of this. Let's take a look. You're saying that's a YouTube? Richard Heinberg. Power, limits. Oh my God. Oh my God. Limits and prospects for human survival. I'll take a look at it, bud. I'll take a look at it. This comes from the New School Commonwealth, which I think I've seen some stuff from the New School, and they always have really good stuff. They always have really good stuff. I'll take a look at that later. I'll put that on while I like play a game or something later today. I wanted to put this up because this is from Good Politic Guy. I was talking about this guy yesterday, but I couldn't remember his name. But here he is. This handsome, debonair, well-spoken gentleman. How dare he? U.S. politicians will be like, we are falling behind. We need to compete with China. Then refuse to build infrastructure, expand social programs, or do literally anything other than expand the military. Like, yep. Oh, you want me to put it in the chat? You got it, bud. Control-C, Control-V. Boink. And yeah, bold climate action it does need a basic income. Like, we need a basic income. Like, it's become a necessity. Like, the capitalist system is not able to respond to the crisis. It isn't responding to the crisis. Like, literally, it's just not doing the job. And if we don't put a basic income in, you're talking about like a mass suffering, and which is unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. Don't need this. I nobody sneezes. Oh, here's a great story. From Starbucks Workers United. So recently, a single Starbucks in Buffalo has unionized, right? And Starbucks has taken their union busting campaign to a new level for the next 3 Buffalo stores preparing for a union election. They changed their strategy from playing the nice guy to waging psychological warfare on partners. Here's what's going on at the Depew location. Starbucks is purposefully scheduling pro-union partners at inconsistent hours. They are often scheduled both open and closed shifts in the same week. This type of scheduling disrupts our ability to have a regular sleep schedule and hurts our mental health. Corporate representatives and out-of-state managers now surveil the store for almost every hour that it's open. This is a way to spy on partners and prevent union conversations from happening. Managers are recruiting new partners in an attempt to form an anti-union committee, purposefully trying to pit coworkers against each other to cause tension in the store. Corporate is policing pro-union workers to enforce policies that have never been enforced before. One example is targeting union leaders for minor dress code infractions that were never previously enforced. Starbucks is overstaffing the Depew location and putting up to 12 people on the floor at once. They are creating unsafe working conditions by putting too many people in a small enclosed space in the midst of a global pandemic. Multiple union leaders have been given a final warning for minor disciplinary actions when they had no prior write-ups. This is a new level of retaliation, and it is unacceptable. This is not how a pro-partner company treats its workers. We treat every corporate person who comes into our stores with respect, and we deserve the same. We are doing our best to stay strong in the face of this anti-union campaign designed to exhaust, demean, isolate, and divide pro-union workers. And it completely makes sense that, like, the Starbucks mascot is a siren, right? Like, we've all seen it. Like, Starbucks mascot is a siren, right? The siren. Well, the siren historically, right, is a creature that lures people in, right, with beautiful song and a beautiful look, lures sailors over so that they can smash against the rocks, and then the siren will feast on their heart. Perfect. Absolutely perfect emblem of what Starbucks represents and what Starbucks is. Like, the perfect mascot for Starbucks is the siren. Just this overt deception that twists into betrayal. Like, that's Starbucks. I worked for Starbucks for 5 years. I feel fairly confident saying that. Oh yes, this has become very popular, right? This I wanted to focus on this for just a minute. South Dakota teachers scramble for dollar bills in demeaning game. Company behind the competition apologizes after footage showing teachers stuffing notes into clothing to fund classrooms goes viral. Like, a competition pitting 10 teachers against each other to scramble for dollar bills to fund school supplies in a city in South Dakota has been described as demeaning and drawn comparisons with the Netflix hit series Squid Game. The local newspaper, the Argus Leader, reported $5,000 in single dollar bills were laid out on the ice skating rink during the Sioux Falls Stampede hockey game on Saturday night, and the teachers from nearby schools competed to grab as many as possible in less than 5 minutes. Like, just give them the money. Just give them the fucking money. Like, it's so fucking annoying that we live in this society where, like, people have to compete for things. Just give them the fucking money. Like, this story could have been, like, local business or local school rink gives $5,000 to teachers for supplies. And we could have had a conversation about, like, well, it shouldn't be a charity, right? Like, these teachers should be receiving the funds they need to get school supplies for their children, right? Like, it's very straightforward shit. Like, teachers should not have to do this. Teachers should not ever, under any circumstances, have to fucking do this, right? And like, this idea that we are, like, demeaning, like, anybody. Like, can you imagine if this was any other fucking profession? Like, any other, like, respectable profession, right? Like, lawyers scrambling around for this so that they could get case documents. Doctors scrambling around like this so that they could get, like, gloves and like, medical equipment for their hospital, right? Like, oh, but when it comes to teachers, like, no fucking wonder Breaking Bad was so influential, right? No wonder Breaking Bad was, like, one of the most seminal scripts to actually come out of America in the last, like, 40, 50 years, right? Like, it was about a high school teacher who couldn't pay for his own health care. And so he turned to making meth. Like, that's what it was about. And it landed. Why? Here you go. Here you go. Here's why it fucking landed. Right? Like, because teachers are demeaned like this every single fucking day. Teachers are demeaned like this. Like, teachers should be some of the best paid people in the society. They're taking care of the education of your children. Like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? The idea that a teacher needs to also work any other job ever at any point ever is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And a sign that your society has failed, incidentally, right? Like, maybe part of the problem with what's going on in America is that we don't pay teachers enough to actually live. And we don't actually give them the tools they need to educate children. Maybe that's what's going on. You ever think about that? Well, I mean, people thinking about that kind of shit, that's a big ask these days. What have I got here? Housing is both a human right and a profitable asset. And that's the problem. So you see how things are going, right? Like the absurdities of the arguments are beginning, like the arguments that are being presented to us, the both siding of every conversation is becoming intensely, aggressively insulting. That like housing is both a human right, but also a profitable asset. These are the same. Consider both of these the same and equal. People living in housing in their neighborhoods and societies so that we can build like an actual community and live, right? Billionaires. These are the same. Consider them equally, right? It's childish. And the same conversation is happening in the climate change conversation. The same conversation is happening in the basic income conversation. It's always the same fucking conversation. It's always breathable air, livable housing, workable land, sustainable societies, a nice place to live, a good place to be, a community you can be proud of, feeling safe versus billionaires. Every single fucking time. And we're supposed to take this seriously. We're genuinely supposed to look at this and be like, interesting point. Billionaires. Yeah, they definitely matter. Like, no, they don't at all. 0% mattering. They matter as much as a queen matters, which is not the fuck at all. It's just a hysteria. We're just caught in this just like, yeah, a billionaire must matter, right? If a billionaire didn't matter, then they wouldn't be there. Like we're so fucking overwhelmingly gullible. We're so fucking gullible. And evil. Like, don't get me wrong. There's just genuinely evil people in the conversation. People like the fellow who told me today that disabled people should just die. Right? Like, that's evil. Like, you're fucking evil. Like, there's nothing else to say. And, like, there's a reason why capitalism is failing. There's a reason why capitalism is on the decline. There's a reason. Right? And that reason is very simply billionaires. Like, if you did a Venn diagram of all of the problems, if you did a Venn diagram of all of the problems that we're facing, housing, climate change, cost of living, cost of food, inflation, right? The privatization of our systems, the denigration of our systems generally, right? And if you did a Venn diagram of all of those things, right in the dead fucking center would be billionaires. Billionaires are the problem, right? They are the linchpin. That if you removed billionaires from the conversation, the simple removal of the billionaires would improve the society dramatically, instantaneously. Because if you imagine the economy as your body, and money is blood that flows through the system, right? Heart through the system back to the heart, right? That's how it works. Well, billionaires are a clot, right? They're just a clot, getting in the way of everything, causing problems for everyone, doing damage to your systems, withholding blood from necessary systems. And if you want to improve the system, get rid of the clot. Billionaires are a blood clot. That's all they are. And imagine you could create a system where you outright say blood clots can't happen. It's not possible for a blood clot to form. And we just choose not to. Why? Because for some reason letting someone sit on a pile of money, it'll trickle down. It'll trickle down. Which isn't any different than saying the blood caught in a blood clot will eventually trickle through, so it's fine. Right? This is how manic and insane we've become as a people. And it's absolutely the truth. Like we are in a hysteria. right? That all you have to do is take one step back for 10 minutes and you know what I'm saying is true, right? Like fundamentally true. Like the second you step out of the hysteria and the ideology and the religious statements and the cult and the just doubling down on the insanity, the second you step back and even consider for a moment what I'm saying, you realize very quickly that it's true. The society would be better without billionaires in it. Instantaneously. Like literally we would say all wealth over, I don't care, $100 million, right? I say 10, honestly, I say one, but that whole bridge too far, 1 million, oh my God. $100 million, all wealth above that taxed at 100%. It's gone, right? So the billionaires just disappear. They're gone from the conversation. They can't exist at all. The next week, society would be better. Everything would be improving. Why? Because that money would begin to circulate in the communities. Because it would have to. Because these billionaires would the money would actually begin trickling down. Right? Because they would actually start spending it because they know it's going to get taxed away anyway, so start to spend it. So they would instantly give their own workers raises. They would instantly actually begin using it for stuff. They would instantly begin spending it. And then if they couldn't, the government itself would take the money away. And what's it going to do? Oh, it's going to fucking use it. Like, the problem is that we're not using it. I have a better adjective name for billionaires, but cannot use it on this chat. Yeah. Don't worry about it, dude. We know. Like, these people are vampires and ghouls, right? And when you listen to them talk, you realize very quickly how vampiric and ghoulish they actually are. And their plans for the future are psychotic, right? Like Jeff Bezos' plan for the future is to ship all polluting industry into space, a process which would destroy the planet. It would completely destroy the planet to do this. Right? But he's so fucking detached and sociopathic that he doesn't give a shit. Right? These guys don't care. Like they genuinely don't care if they destroy the planet. Like they don't care. Right? They're just like, well, I'll be dead anyway. Deal with it. Haha. Get fucked. Like, as long as you get your chicken tendies, right? As long as you get your little toys, as long as you can drive around your big stupid trucks, right? Nobody gives a fuck. It's unbelievable. Like, this is the deep shame of who we are as a society, right? Our grandparents sacrificed their lives. Our grandparents sacrificed their lives. We're just being asked to sacrifice our toys, and we can't even do it. Right, I gotta go save my pug, guys. I gotta go save my pug. Do I have a video I can put on? No. 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. I know, buddy. I know. Snort, snort, snort. Snort, snort, snort. Okay, buddy. Let's see if we can show you on the screen. Milo saving my pug from his stupid snorty face. I know, buddy, it's dumb what we've done to your face. It's dumb what we've done to your face. Come here, buddy. Come here. Sit. Okay, here's a bit of cheese. Good boy. Okay, I know, big snorts. Swallow. Here's another one. Oh, it's a bad one, eh? It's a bad one, eh? Oh, it's a bad one. Okay, come here, my guy. Come here, my guy. What a good boy. What a good boy. What a good boy. Here you go. Oop, a little more. Here you go, bud. Okay. Sit. High five. That's such a good boy. Okay, now you're just going to get these because I love you. I love you, buddy. You're such a good little boy. Yes, you are. My precious little guy. Okay, one more high five. Yes, good boy. Good boy, my little guy. Good boy. What a good little boy. Oh, yeah, my good little boy. Yes. Good boy, buddy. Oh, sorry about that, guys. When he gets caught in that cycle, I gotta help him, or else he can really hurt himself. And I don't want him to get hurt. Okay. Billionaires, right? Like, winds up Milo. Everything gets really heated. Oh yeah, this is a great meme that I see all the time. The right, let's do a genocide. The left, let's not do a genocide. Center, guys, you're going to have to compromise. Let's just do some genocide. The right, I guess I can live with that for now. The left, no. Center, see, this is why no one likes you, left. You guys are real extremists, shaking my head. No genocide. No compromise. Nope. Oh yeah, this is a great graph to show you exactly how quickly, right? China's high-speed rail 2008 versus 2020. You need to make a YouTube short with saving the bug. Yeah. I try to kind of make it a show for you guys because I think he's super cute. So why not get him on? But I don't know what you can see. So anyway. Actually, there were trials and errors behind the building drive. Huge fight between incrementalists and radicals. Debate between Realtrack and Maglev. Wen Zhao accident that capped speed spikes across the country. Despite that, China made it. 2008. So while we were going through a financial crash, right? China started the process of building high-speed rail in its country. 12 years later. Can you imagine a shift like this happening in our society? Is there any part of you that thinks in 12 years we will have a project like this completed in our own nation? Is there any part of you that thinks that that's even a possibility? Even theoretically? No. Like, imagine the forces that would get in the way of such a project being completed. Right? The vultures and the vampires and the ghouls and the fucking zombies. Right? Like, there's no way that this could happen. And the lesson, of course, being that, like, when China's set to do this, it's set to do it. And there were setbacks, right? And in the West, those setbacks would be blown way out of proportion. They would slow the process right down. Everything would just come to a halt, right? And then God help you. So like between 2008 to 2020, so really think about that, right? That's 12 years, 3 election cycles. 3 election cycles. So while you're actually building this thing, right? What's going to happen in the West? Well, some new government's going to come in and they're just going to scrap it. How do I know? Because that's what they do all the time. And they'll say it's tofu construction because you need to talk shit about China no matter what. Yep, exactly, right? Even though China makes all our stuff. Like, China makes all our stuff, and yet, it's all crap, I guess. Right? Like, no, China builds. China builds. Like, we don't build shit. We're not building anything. We don't give a fuck. The only thing we build is stuff that's designed to blow up. Right? Which includes bombs, by the way. It's unstable, or they use slave labor, or the images are fake, or China caused the Great Recession, or all of this bullshit. And it's all bullshit. Right? It can't just simply be. It can't simply be that China wants to do it. It just can't simply be that China is saying we want to do it and so we're going to do it, right? Like because if you actually made that conclusion that a country can just agree to do something and then do it, then maybe your own citizens would start to say, "Hey, we can just do things. Let's do them," right? And maybe they'll start to ask, "Why aren't they happening?" More on demand better. Hey, Just JC, how you doing? Public-private partnership projects in Canada are a disaster, and they're a disaster for a very clear reason, right? They're a disaster for a very clear reason, right? You're asking capitalists permission to do stuff, and capitalists aren't interested in that. Capitalists are interested in money for themselves, and oftentimes public source, like public goods, things that are good for the public, aren't money-making ventures, right? And honestly, public-private partnerships are like explicitly fascist. Like, literally the just entrenching of private ownership in the public sector. You're like selling public sector projects to billionaires. Like, no. Like, a traditional government, like a government that's actually functioning, will say, we're going to do this. And then they set out to do this. And if they need to tax money away from the billionaires to do it, they do that. That's how it works. Right? But our system has become so corrupted and is so easily corruptible because of the existence of these billionaires in the first place. building lots of $1 million homes here in Ontario, homes that were half the price a year ago. Yeah, because honestly, like, I'm going to say this again and again and again and again until it finally sinks in, until there's actually somebody in like the mainstream or even in like the world socialist press or anything that clues in and understands what's actually happening. The billionaire class does not give a fuck what's built on the property, right? That it could be an empty lot as far as they're concerned, right? The house itself is just there for presentation and appearances. It's just to be ostentatious for the sake of being ostentatious. The billionaire class is buying up land. That's what it's doing. It's buying up land. It's not speculating on the land, right? That's sort of the grift that we're all being sold, right? When they finally actually admit that, okay, billionaires are buying up land, okay, but they must be doing it for speculative purposes. They are buying land. That is what they are doing, right? Because land is a hard asset. It is the definition of a hard asset. And if you get enough of the land together, then you can start just doing crazy bullshit with it if you want, right? Or you can create just like a permanent underclass of people who are renting out to you, right? Like, we are moving into a period of techno-feudalism. Like, the billionaires are aware that they are doing this. They are aware that they are creating a feudal society. They want to be the kings of it. And what do you need to be if you want to be a feudal lord that is successful? You need land. You need it. You need land. There's a reason why Bill Gates is buying up all of the farmland. Bill Gates is the #1 agriculturalist in North America now, right? Famous farmer Bill Gates, right? No, he's buying up the land so that he can be like a feudal lord, so that he can have like serfs working as peasants on his farms and paying him rent to live on the properties that he owns. Like, that's the structure. That's what it is. And we're just oblivious to it. We're just going to keep reporting on it as if it's like, we need to build more homes to sell to the billionaires so they can rent them to us and make us a permanent underclass of serfs. Like, that's literally what we're saying. And it's blistering to me. It's blistering to me that we're actually taking any of this shit seriously. But people are confused and gullible, and they don't know what's going on. And in the meantime, right, Canadian youth experiencing high levels of anxiety and suicidal thoughts. What? You mean we're collapsing the society into feudalism and war and climate change, and we're actually, people are being anxious about it? What? How shocking, right? Yeah, billionaires are hoarding land. Well, and also there's also the element in Nova Scotia where they don't have anything else to buy. Like, they literally don't have anything else to buy. So even if you're like, even if you're just a billionaire and you don't actually have any vision, like most of them have no vision of the future. They don't actually know anything, right? They see maybe 4 months into the future. Like, if you're a billionaire on that kind of level, you just start buying land because it's all you have left. There's literally nothing else to buy. And it doesn't matter. Like, the Ford administration recently said that they're going to jam through a 20% speculation tax. It's irrelevant. 20%, completely irrelevant. You could make it 100% if you wanted, by the way. Like, you could. That's why the tax incentive isn't going to work. You literally could make it 100% tax. So that if buying the house cost $1 million, now it costs $2 million, right? You literally could make it like that, and the billionaires will buy it anyway. Because they have $1 billion. Like, I don't know why this has become difficult for us. I think the reason it's difficult is because we don't have an appreciation for how much $1 billion actually is, right? Let alone 100 billion, right? Let alone 200 billion. Like, just put together, like, for real, create something in your mind, as I do all the time, like, this is $100,000, and then pile that up into 1 million, and then pile it up into 1 billion, and you'll see. You'll see. And once you realize how much money this is, like how much this is, you'll see how pretty clearly It's the whole thing is failing. Yeah, anytime I see a new home being built, it's always a double garage mini mansion. They're investing in housing the upper class and purposefully not building for the less affordable. Yeah, and again, right? The only reason they're even building a house on it is so that they can take a picture of it so that a billionaire can be like, buy that one. So they'll look at like the thing, but that's the one, buy that one. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, and these rich people, you wait, man, in like 10, 20 years, there are going to be stories, you're going to be seeing them, right? Billionaires are going to be bulldozing these, right? Because what are they doing? They're doing what you do in Monopoly, right? They're going to buy lots. So if this is like a housing lot and there's a bunch of them, right? And they got a bunch of them, well, they're going to buy up all of those and then they're going to bulldoze all those houses and build like an amusement park on it for themselves and their friends. Like, that's what's happening. So that when they use their private jet to come into Toronto, they can go to their McMansion. And they're going to have a McMansion in every fucking place. Yeah, here's a crazy idea. Let's make an 80-year plan and stick to it. Don't you know, buddy? Chaos brings order. Chaos brings order. I'm submitting a great resolution from the NDP Socialist Caucus that says we should confiscate the 407 because the current owners have broken the contract and the law. We would only compensate pension. Yeah, I mean, the idea that the 407 is owned by like what, a Portuguese corporation? Like, the Mike Harris administration is despicable. Like, despicable. When Mike Harris finally dies, I'm gonna celebrate it. Like, he's easily one of the worst premiers we've ever had. Yeah, nationalization without capitalist compensation. Yeah, no, fuck these capitalists. Like, they're ghouls. They're fucking ghouls. Like, we're not going to compensate like Skeletor. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So here's an interesting one, okay? So this gets us into some COVID news. This comes from the Washington Post, so I'm a bit sus, but it's fine. Omicron variant more resistant to vaccine, but causes less severe COVID. Major South African study concludes. Omicron appears to cause less severe illness than earlier variants of coronavirus, but is more resistant to the 2-dose Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine widely used in South Africa, according to the first major private study since Omicron was first detected. This the study by Discovery House of 200,000 positive cases, of which 78,000 were attributed to Omicron, yeah, that's pretty good, showed the risk of hospital admissions among adults who contracted COVID-19 was 29% lower than the initial pandemic wave that emerged in March 2020. However, the study found that the vaccine from the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and German partner BioNTech provided just 33% protection against the infection, much less than the level for other variants detected in the country. At the same time, the vaccine may offer 70% protection against being hospitalized with Omicron, the study showed. So this is just confirming what the data we were seeing from the other day was saying, that the vaccine is not preventing transmission. It is providing protection in regards to hospitalization. So the chances of actually contracting Omicron are much higher, even with the vaccine. But the chances of being hospitalized, if you have the vaccine, are way lower. So you take the good, you take the bad, you take it all, and what you have, the facts of life. Those aren't the lyrics to the facts of life. The facts of life. Come on. Lyrics. I always forget like the third line. What? You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. There's a time you got to go, you show you've grown. The facts of life. The facts of life. Who remembers the facts of life? Great show. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. Oh, I know. You want to come up, buddy? You want to come up? You want to come up? You want to come up? You want to show the people your beautiful face? Yeah, you don't want to show people your beautiful face. You just want to bury your face in my knee. Yeah, you sweetheart. We've done that one. Canada is fueling war in Yemen with arms sales. And the reason why I wanted to show this is a UN report. This was released way back in 2020. Way back in 2020, right? Right? But like, it's so odd to believe that, like, I keep believing that we're still in 2020. Like, I keep thinking about this as if it's like, yeah, we're in, like, month 18 of 2020. So, a UN report, Canada is fueling war in Yemen with arms sales, where we know a genocide is occurring, right? Which is what is spurring over 50 unions. I reported on this today in my video. Over 50 unions and civil action groups, including Socialist Action, which I'm a part of, has sent a letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau asking him to end the weapons exports to Saudi Arabia. Here's the list, right? Amalgamated Transit Union, Amnesty International, right? Like, and down the list it goes. Each one of these is their CUPE Ontario, right? Down the Council of Canadians. Like, not unimportant names. Oxfam, right? People for Peace. And the Rideau Institute. Like, here's good old Socialist Action. Where are you, bud? Socialist Action, blank. Right? Like, we can't actually talk about human rights, like, with any credibility whatsoever while we send weapons to an army that is enacting a genocide. Like, we are contributing to that genocide without a doubt. Like, without a doubt. And the idea that we have any right whatsoever to stand up and talk about human rights is a joke. It's a joke. Like, we have no moral basis. We don't have the high ground, right? We are fueling this genocide. And, like, and now it's gotten to the point where, like, major Canadian institutions are banding together to say so. And my response to this is, I'm glad that they did it, but it's not going to do anything, because the Liberals don't respond to the demands of the populace any longer. They are captured by the death cult. They are not interested in responding to the will of the people. They are not actually responding to it. And they are just going to continue. They're going to read this letter, throw it in the bin, move on with their lives. Just how if you, like, set up a march, you're going to march by the building, they're going to watch you go by, and then they're going to ignore it. Like, that's where we're at. That the Liberal Party is responsive to maybe 100 people total, right? Maybe 100. And, like, those 100, and we know who they are, right? David Thompson, Joseph Tsai, right? The Pattison family, right? Like, we are in a situation where, like, 10 families now have more wealth than the bottom half of the nation. Like, we're in a major crisis, and this moment is completely indicative of how our ruling class has no longer is capable of working for our interests. They're, like, not. They're incapable. Like, so. Like, if we're bombing people over there, what do you think they're going to do to us? Okay, you want to come up now? You want to come up? You excited little guy? Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Do you want to come up? Well, then come up. You do this every single time. You give me all the signals that you want to come up, and then I say, come up. Up. Every time with this. Every time with this. Such a drama queen. Such a drama queen. Jenny Kwan and a couple other NDPs are bringing up the UBI today. Hopefully that gets some traction. Nope, they'll just ignore it. There's a reason why the basic income doesn't even get asked in polls. Like, we poll the populace all the time. Like, what do you want to see as a platform? Basic income's not on it. Like, it's not on it. There's a reason for that. If you can serve those families, you're a made man. Exactly. That's exactly it, right? And it's not about, like, direct blackmail or bribery, rather. Like, it's not about direct bribery, right? Like, when I talk about this, like, the people on the right especially tend to get really like, what, you think they're coming up with, like, a suitcase of money? Oh, we could track that. And it's like, no, dude. Like, they invite them to their mansions, fly them in like, a private helicopter, right? Have a big party where there's gorgeous people around, get them connected to other people. Like, you're going to work with these guys. Like, you're going to work with these guys. Like, they can set you up for your whole life. And honestly, like, imagine if you didn't. Yeah, that's how coalitions form. Defending the sugar daddy. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. I wanted to point this article out. Kelly McParland is absolutely hilarious to me. Like a real cartoon character, right? Like he's a writer for the National Post. He's exactly the type of person you think he is because he writes for the National Post. But what's amazing about Kelly McParland especially is that his writing, when you read it, sounds as though it was written by Ursula from Disney's The Little Mermaid. Like, no word of a lie. I'm just going to pick out a random... So this is an article about how he had a year of not buying things from China. Yes, a whole year of not buying things from China. Can you imagine? Right? And the article itself is fairly banal. Like, it's something that you could read in, like, you know, Good Housewife magazine or something, right? Like, it's really... I'll just pick on... anyone who makes even a notional effort to check the origins of stuff they grab off the shelves of any big box store understands that China is the dominant supplier. The less expensive it is, the more likely it is to have been made from a factory in Guangdong or Ginseng or Xinjiang. If you buy it off Amazon, there's a very good chance that it was shipped here from a Chinese port. Like, just random shit. But the reason why I wanted to point this out is because it actually has the laundry list of propaganda in it. Like, just the absolute perfect, like, checklist of all the fucking anti-China propaganda in it. It's actually absolutely perfect. It's stunningly perfect. Like, I actually think they must have sent a memo around being like, this is all the Chinese propaganda. So, it had nothing to do with the Chinese people. Right, cover your bases. I'm not a racist. I'm not racist. I'm not a xenophobe, right? It has nothing to do with the Chinese people, who, like most people, just want to be able to live their lives in peace as they see best, right? It has nothing to do with them. I'm not a xenophobe. And everything to do with the Chinese government. Okay, but that argument completely falls apart the second you realize that the Chinese people have mass support for the Chinese government. So you're like, I don't like the government. The people are fine. But the people support the government. In big, big ways. Like, the support numbers in China for their government dwarf anything we're experiencing here. Huge percentages of Chinese people, like in 80 and 90% support. Like, we would be so lucky to have that kind of sustained support. Like, we can have spike ups, right? Especially during periods of war, right? During, like, when the Twin Towers happened, when 9/11 happened, right? Bush had like a 90% approval rating for like a little tiny bit. And then he squandered it by invading the Middle East for no fucking reason. And so this argument falls apart. And once it falls apart, you realize, oh, you're just a racist xenophobe. Like, Kelly McParland and the National Post generally are just racists. Like, it's brutal racism, what they do. Like, and they try to cover that racism by saying, like, no, it's not about the Chinese people. It's about their government. I want to critique their government, not the people. Government, not people. But the government is an extension of the people, and the people support the government. So much for your stupid xenophobic argument. At the time, the Beijing regime was holding the two Michaels, Korvig, like, I'm literally going to go through this. This is a debunk. This is what we're doing. We're doing a debunk. At the time, the Beijing regime was holding the two Michaels, Korvig and Spazzer, as hostages for the return of Meng Wanzhou, a wealthy businesswoman with close connections to the communist government. So this situation was caused by America. America kidnapped Meng Wanzhou, told us, Canada, to kidnap her and detain her without charge and for no reason. And in response, Beijing picked up two spies. Right? Like, pretty tit for tat. Like what? America's just allowed to pick up Chinese citizens off the streets? Just allowed to ghost them? What would have happened if they had done nothing? Well, Meng would have disappeared. Right? Into like one of these like Chicago black sites or something. Right? So, what's the crime what's the crime China did? It fought back. Right? And you'll find often, most of the time, that the big complaint that comes out of the West is that how dare they fight back. That's usually what it is. How dare they fight back. Right? And in the case of the two Michaels, that's exactly the complaint. How dare they fight back? Don't they know that we should be able to kidnap their citizens off the streets without any recompense whatsoever? We're America, goddammit. What do we got? It was and is also running re-education camps. See, note how the propaganda now against Xinjiang has become so weak that they can't even call them concentration camps anymore, right? Even as they are doing like a laundry list of like the offenses, they have to say re-education camp because that's actually closer to what's going on. And incidentally, the camps that China is running are almost exactly the same as the camps that are being run in France, right? And also, by the way, incidentally, they've been completely successful. Speaking of National Post, did you see what they tweeted today? Dropped it in live stream channel. Thank you, damn boxes. Let's go take a look for fun. National Post, what a bunch of crazy lunatics. Follow our new series that raises a toast to the miraculous free market. Starts December 18th in the National Post. Celebrate the Capitalist Manifesto. Celebrate capitalism. Yay! 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 It's finally happening, you guys. It's finally happening. The capitalist class is finally responding to the critique that they're refusing to actually engage seriously in the conversation. This is actually good news. And why is it good news? Okay? Why is it good news? I reference this book all of the time. This is a book that we should be teaching children in schools. Like, literally, grade 10 children should learn about. Cotton is King. Cotton is King and pro-slavery arguments. It's a series of essays, a series of articles written by people defending slavery on the path towards the Civil War. That the critique that was being laid out from the abolitionists towards the pro-slavery apologists was that they refused to actually engage in the conversation about why slavery is bad. And so they did. And they started to actually release documents. And you began to see how psychotic these people actually were, right? These people are psychopaths to an individual, right? Some of their arguments literally are black people are just inferior. The Bible tells us that black people are inferior, that slavery is better for black people because they were just savages in the first place. And literally some of the arguments are just straight up, look how much money we're making off these guys. Like no justification whatsoever. So when the National Post, which is just like a corporate rag on the far right, is going to release its capitalist manifesto, it's going to be like this. It's going to give us the foundation to fight against them. They are going to create and give us the very arguments that are going to destroy themselves. This is fabulously good news. Enormously good news. Every single one of these articles is going to be psychopathic, nightmarish, gloating. Remember how I said at the beginning of this? At the beginning of this stream today, I said the capitalists will come to a point where they will gloat about the destruction that they're enacting. Here it is. Here it is right here. On December 18th, they're going to start hanging themselves. It's enormously good news. They can't help themselves. The psychopath class can't help themselves. You understand? Here's a book where a bunch of old white men argued that it was fine to kidnap and enslave black people. Fine. Same thing's going to happen here. Exactly the same thing. Like, at every point in every story, the villain has to monologue and reveal their nefarious plan. It happens in every story. Here you go. Here you go. What phenomenal news. What phenomenal news. And I'll be here reporting on how psychotic these guys actually are. Because they're not going to be able to help themselves. Like, these guys are psychopaths. Right? Like, they literally don't understand the difference between right and wrong. Like, they don't understand that there is such a thing as right and there is such a thing as wrong, and that these are different, and they don't know what makes them different. All they understand is when I do this, this person doesn't like it. That's all they understand. And now they're so rich and so detached that they don't care about that. They don't care if you're upset by it. And in fact, it gives them joy if you're upset. Yes, they will do exactly what Marx and Engels did 175 years ago, analyze capitalism so workers can overthrow it. Well, it'll be propaganda. And the arguments will be very bad. Like, very, very bad. Like, it pays to remember that these guys are extremely illiterate. Like, I've been saying it over and over on this channel. If you have been educated in a university, any university in North America, in economics, you are worse than illiterate, right? If you have a PhD in economics in any institution, right, in North America, you are worse than illiterate, because an illiterate person, right, might actually say, like, well, I don't actually know anything about this. But these neoliberal fascists, these like totally detached, delusional psychopaths, right, they actually think they know something, right? And so when they talk, they come off as deranged lunatics and who are so arrogant and psychopathic that they will actually say things like, yeah, people should die for the economy, right? There's a reason why people, like, literally, they are just throwing us out into a pandemic, right? Yeah, people should be willing to die for the economy. It will repeat 100 million, 70 years, Vuvuzela. Yeah. Like, and again, I suspect that it will just be an exercise in obfuscation, right? Like, they're not actually going to talk about the thing seriously, right? Because they're not capable of doing that. But at the same time, like, you watch, like, you're going to have an article from Conrad Black, right? He's not going to be able to help himself, and it's going to be psychopathic. Like, it's going to be absolutely just the most psychopathic shit you've ever read. They won't be able to help themselves, right? They won't actually be able to help themselves. And all of the shit that they say to each other in their, like, club while they're having sex with little girls and shit, all of that shit that they say to one another, they'll say in public in front of all of us. And we'll read it and go like, you guys are psychos. It's exactly what's coming, and I'm fucking hype. Get hype. Get hype. Oh. Thanks, damn boxes. Thanks, damn boxes. I'm hype. I'm hype. Something to look forward to. It's gonna start happening in 4 days. 4 days. So I'm gonna... Should I actually follow these guys? Do I follow these guys? There we go. Let's get some crazy nonsense in there. You know what? And I'm even gonna reply. Oh, sweet. Look forward to seeing the psychopaths. Let's give it the proper... The capitalist death cult fail to defend itself. Like, it has no basis that is justifiable any longer. Like, there is no argument left. It fails in terms of actually generating wealth. It fails in terms of improving the life of its own citizenry. It fails in terms of gaining the respect of the international community. It fails in terms of helping anyone, doing the basics, food, shelter, any of that. It's a total failure as a system. It simply doesn't work. And any of the times that it has experienced any success whatsoever, it's either been because the capitalist system has literally destroyed a nation and stolen its resources and exported those resources to its citizenry. So the citizens be like, oh, wow, riches. Capitalism generates wealth that we literally are stealing from like Haiti, South America, Africa, right? Like hollowing out the rest of the world. Yeah, wealth generation, capitalism, we did it. Or it's happened because in spite of capitalism, where unions and communists and socialists have managed to gain enough political power to push through legislation and get things done that the capitalists fought against. Like, and that's what we're going to see. We're just going to see a bunch of crazed apologetics that are just going to be, I'm super looking forward to it, dude. I'm super looking forward to it. It's going to be absolutely insane. Because they can't help themselves but be insane anymore, right? Like, case in point, right? They're still talking about the Xinjiang re-education camps, right? Which used to be concentration camps, right? They're still talking about discriminating against minorities. What are you talking about? Like, discriminating against minorities? How? Like, they literally have erected funds in order to send money into the Xinjiang province in order to elevate and escalate the lives of minority groups. Minority groups in China were permitted to not abide by the one-child policy. So the population of these minority groups is accelerating greatly. Like, does that sound like racial discrimination to you? And whenever you ask them, they don't have an example. And their examples are always like, oh, I got a document from Adrian's Ends. You're like, you mean this fucking psychopath? Like, fuck off. Literally, like, a Christian fundamentalist who works with the CIA who says things like, I was sent by God to destroy China. Like, the guy is deranged, and we're supposed to take it seriously. Employing forced labor, no, they're not. Like, straight up, just no, they're not. Like, threatening to invade Taiwan. The Taiwan narrative is so embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing. The only reason why this situation still exists is because the Americans have always prevented China from taking Taiwan in the first place. That the Chinese ruling class before the Communist Revolution lived in Taiwan. And once the communists started to take over the mainland, the Chinese ruling class retreated to Taiwan. Mao wanted to get into Taiwan to end this, right? Who prevented him? The Americans, right? They didn't let him get into Taiwan. They kept it separate. They protected the Chinese ruling class. And now the Chinese want to take Taiwan because, first of all, Taiwan has never declared its independence. It's always been considered part of China, right? And it's a symbolic, for the Chinese people, it's a symbolic end to this conflict, right? And, of course, the Americans want Taiwan to be independent. Why? So they can put a military base on it. So that when they start blowing up boats in the South China Sea, it'll be easier for them. Crushing freedoms in Hong Kong. Yeah, again, very similar story here, right? Like, the Americans want to put a military base in Hong Kong. That's what they want, right? Like, if Hong Kong were to declare its independence, that's exactly what it would do. Attempt to bully neighbors across the region. You mean talk to them? Trade with them? Oh, okay. Building a military in hopes will give the ability to intimidate any foreign power. You mean like the psychopath that's walking around destroying nations? Is that what you're defending here? You're saying that the Chinese shouldn't build a strong military to defend itself from this psycho that has actually destroyed nations that China shares a border with within living memory? Vietnam War, Cambodian War, the Laos War, right? Like, Laos still has, like, thousands and thousands of landmines. People accidentally stumble on them and blow themselves up even today. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, fucking psycho? Interfering in foreign elections? What? Like, what are you even fucking talking about? Interfering in foreign elections? Now we're just getting into wild conspiracy theory. Like Russiagate crazed kind of lunatic fringe stuff. And continuing its intensive and long-running campaign to steal technology and collect data it can use to disrupt democracy. Because it needs to do that, right? Because the Americans aren't doing a good job disrupting their own democracy. And establish norms of behavior among less despotic regimes. Like, that's a word salad of nonsense, Like I'm going to say it out loud again so that you can really hear how fucking dumb it sounds. Because it sounds stupid. And first of all, before I do that, this campaign to steal technology, the agreement between the Americans and the Chinese was that the Chinese would make everything for the Americans and they would be able to keep the technology. That was the agreement. Like, this idea that it's stealing technology, get fucked. Like, there's a reason why people in the world are beginning to see America as being like this outrageous psychopath that is full of instability. And it's because it refuses to abide by its own agreements. That it literally looked at China and said, very well, you can keep that technology and use it for yourselves as long as you keep making our stuff. And now that the Chinese are using it to actually benefit themselves, the Americans are like, you're stealing our technology. It's manic. It's manic instability, right? That is just being espoused as if it's fact by Kelly McParland here in the National Post. This lunatic fringe that is going to completely out itself starting on the 18th. I am super, super, super looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to seeing these guys out themselves as the psychopaths they are. It's going to be brilliant. Oh, it's going to be so fucking brilliant. Dude, damn boxes, bud. I am so fucking hype. Oh, I'm so fucking hyped for it, man. I'm so fucking hyped. I can't even begin to tell you how hype I am. Oh, it's gonna be so embarrassing for them. They're literally going to look like fucking lunatics in front of all of us, while literally sneering at us as if they've made a point. That's gonna be the best part. They're gonna do it as if they're like, haha, checkmate, communists. And we're just gonna be like, you guys look like psychopaths, because they do. Well, they are psychopaths. So, okay, I'm gonna read this out loud again, right? Interfering in foreign elections, how they could possibly do that, but okay. And continuing its intensive and long-running campaign to steal technology and collect data it can use to disrupt democracy and establish norms of behavior among less despotic regimes. Like, that's crazed. It's crazed. Like, and establish norms of behavior among less despotic regimes. What do they got, like, superpowers? Like, we are giving China, like, these incredible superpowers, right? Like, yeah, Jared, exactly, bud. Good to see you, by the by. In 2016, the DNC were more worried about the American people interfering in democracy than they were the Russians. And, like, the Russiagate shit has been completely debunked. And you know why, right? You know why? Because why on earth would China or Russia want to get involved in America's political system? Like, it seems like a complete and total farce, right? That you learn how to make technology, but you don't dare figure out how it works. Yeah, exactly. Like, fuck off. And it was explicitly the agreement. It was explicitly the agreement. Like, get completely fucked. What's this? What did I keep here? Oh yeah. Is this getting into the Peterson stuff? Oh yeah, great. Let's tomorrow I'm gonna do a proper clip on this, but I do want to preload it. This is a new low for Rex Murphy and Jordan Peterson, right? They have sunk to a complete and total new low, right? That Rex Murphy is publishing an article. Rex Murphy, how the cancel culture mob's attempt to silence Jordan Peterson backfired. Like, in it, he straight up goes to defend Jordan Peterson's lies about the transgender bill that was being passed through the House of Commons. Jordan Peterson's fraudulent mischaracterization of this legislation is in fact what propelled him into the mainstream media eye, because all of the journalists who were talking to him were like British people and Americans who didn't actually take the time to look at the research or look at the legislation and actually understand it, right? That what is the of the proposed federal bill C-16. These laws are the first laws I've seen that require people under the threat of legal punishment to employ certain words, to speak a certain way instead of merely limiting what they're allowed to say. That's what Peterson has also said. Freedom of speech is under attack in Canada. Like, it's total fucking bullshit. Literally, lawyers are saying things like I don't think there's any legal expert that would say this would meet the threshold for hate speech in Canada, right? I don't know if he's misunderstanding it, but he's mischaracterizing it, right? Like, the truth of the matter is that Peterson didn't like that trans people were being acknowledged. Like, as a massive transphobe himself, like, it's pretty obvious that, like, he doesn't like that the legal system is allowing trans people to be people, right? And so he creates this farcical notion that it's somehow an affront on his free speech when it's nothing of the sort, not even close. And he goes around and lies about it. And here's Rex Murphy defending it, right? And my favorite is that they're doing it in the Epoch Times, which is owned, we'll all remember, which is owned by who? Falun Gong, which, just gonna put this right here. You can draw your own conclusions. I've been told by many liberals that this is fine. Completely fine. Completely fine that a group that started in the 90s uses this symbol, right? Completely normal. Incidentally, they're a racial purity cult. They believe that interracial marriage is wrong. They believe that their leader is capable of supernatural things like becoming invisible, right? These are the owners of the Epoch Times, which now Rex Murphy is publishing articles about Jordan Peterson in. Like, this should be the end of these men's careers. Straight up. Like, this is a straight up embarrassment. It's embarrassing for Rex Murphy. It's embarrassing for Jordan Peterson. It's not embarrassing for the Epoch Times because, you know, they are what they are. Right? They're a racial purity cult, which incidentally we know the Conservative Party is donating money to. Like, cool and normal, right? Fucking totally cool and normal. Israel probably did have a hand, but they've never been mentioned. I don't know. I don't understand the comment, bud. Sorry. And like, and don't get me wrong, like Rex Murphy, like he has a grip on the English language. Like he weaves a yarn, right? It's like he ate a thesaurus. But he's fundamentally an idiot, right? Like, cancel culture has had an infectious velocity any malign virus would envy. Like, it's a nice turn of phrase. But the reality is, like, cancel culture is not really a thing. What, you mean facing consequences for being a racist? Like, is that what you're complaining about? Seems like. Like, seems like. Oh, how dare you face consequences for being a transphobe? An overt and obvious transphobe, by the way. Like, it's extremely obvious. Like, you don't even need to make an argument. Like, here is a piece of legislation that puts into the, what was it, the charter or the criminal rights code, right? What is? Yeah, the bill proposes adding gender identity and gender orientation to the Canadian Human Rights Act. Like, that's it. That means it would become illegal under the act to deny someone a job or discriminate against them in the workplace based on the gender they identify with or outwardly express. That's what the legislation does. And Peterson's walking around saying that, oh, if I refuse to do this, I'll get thrown in prison. I'll be considered hate speech. Like, it's a sharp mischaracterization, or what I like to call a lie, right? It's just a lie based on the idea that, like, what, Peterson wants to discriminate against people based on their gender? Seems like. And we don't need to dig too deep. And like the pronoun wars. And he's straight up going to go through it. Oh my God. I just can't stomach these guys anymore. They're like, and fucking Murphy just jerks Peterson off, dude. Just fucking. Ooh. Okay, I gotta move on. Fucking stupid and embarrassing. I'm gonna keep these though so that I don't lose them. About the factory workers, right? We're all familiar by now with the tornadoes that blew up the factory, right? At least 8 people died in the Mayfield Consumer Products candle factory. Its destruction has become a symbol of the tornadoes ruinous power. Factory workers threatened with firing if they left before tornado, employees said. Brutal. Brutal. All right, let's do a music break. 13 people listening live. What a wonderful opportunity to advertise tomorrow's protest. That's right. Thank you, Rob. There is a protest going on, Yonge and Dundas Square, 3 p.m. Come on down. We're going to protest the mistreatment of disabled people and poverty in generally. It's a poverty protest. We give less money to people in Canada than the United States does. Like, that's how fallen we are as a people in this regard. Like, we don't give a fuck. So come and protest. Yonge and Dundas Square, if I didn't say that out loud. All right. This is a tune that really came to me after, like, I lost my job. I broke up with my girlfriend. It was like the classic, like, shitstorm of events. And this song popped out of it. So can't complain too loudly about that. I call this song 2020. It'd be helpful if I remembered the fucking recording.
The wage they pay me with don't get me very far. The chains that hold me break me down, but they don't scar. Can't even drink away my blues inside a bar. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. Another day won't help that pain inside your back. The days get harder, but it's too hard to keep track. They keep you tied before your soul opens a crack. God don't care what monkeys think about the facts. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. So sit atop your pile of bones and bloody gold, and human sacrifice don't stop you being old. At least you'll die before the bomb you said explodes. We're gonna burn to death while doing what we're told. This year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway.
Yeah. Like, it's a gold rush. That's what it is. It's a gold rush. They're just rushing around, trying to make as much money as they can while the making's good. And they don't give a fuck. Like, they don't give a fuck. Right? They do not care if they destroy the planet. Like, they don't care. 0%. Like, 0%. Like, to them, when the conversation is being put forward, like, money for billionaires, sustainable human existence. For them, they're only saying sustainable human existence because that's what you're saying to them. That if it wasn't for us actually pushing back and fighting back against their psychopathic nature, they wouldn't talk about it. It'd literally be like, look how much money we're making. That's all it would be. What do I want to play? What do I want to play? I want to play one. I want to play another one. Thanks, Vince. Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it, bud. I appreciate it, bud. If any of you got, some of you have heard like my whole anthology. If any of you have a request, please let me know. I'll gladly play it. You know what? I kind of want to play this one. This one's kind of an oddball one, but I love it anyway. Straight with your shoulders back. Tighten that heart, give it no slack. Find another way to fill that void. Fill that order, do as you're told. No one cares, you're getting old. The fake smiles, they just make you annoyed. Get lost in your illusions. Pornography engine. Go save another princess. That won't save you from your sins. Dig too deep, can't take it back. Broken lives will never let it go. Sold out for your even born. Try to eat, but it's all gone. Why sell yourself just to put on a show? Get lost in your illusions. Pornography engine. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sin. Monkey on a burning rock. Reach the stars, grabbing his cock. Pump and dump your soul to get to Mars. Dreams don't mean a single thing. Don't worry what tomorrow brings. Surely it will only leave a scar. Get lost in your illusions. Pornography engine. Go save another princess. It won't save you from your sin. Get lost in your illusion. Pornography engine.
princess. It won't save you from your sin. It won't save you from your sin. It won't save you from your sin.
Yeah, I like that tune. Sounds like a True Detective theme song. Yeah, great. If a show like True Detective came up to me and said like, "Hey John, can we use that song?" I'd be like, "Yeah, great. Money, please." I think that a ton of my songs, dude. I think a ton of my songs would be like super kick-ass in like movies. Like I got a bunch of songs that I'm just like, yeah, like put this in. Like this would be the great song to do like over a montage, right? You know what? I've been flipping past this one and something's pinging inside of me. I'm gonna play this one and then we'll move on. This is man. I genuinely believe that if Willie Nelson sang this song at the Grand Ole Opry, right? I know, buddy, Willie Nelson, I know. If Willie Nelson sang this song at the Grand Ole Opry and it became like the thing in country circles and all that kind of stuff, because Willie Nelson, he's still got quite a bit of clout. Or someone like Dolly Parton, right? That if they sang this song, I think that it has the power to heal America. I really do. Like, not completely heal America, obviously, but I think it's a healing balm. And when you listen to this, just remember, first of all, please forgive me because I haven't played this song in maybe a couple of weeks now. But just like think of somebody like Willie Nelson playing it. Or who knows, maybe I'll become internationally famous and it'll be me that sings it. Wouldn't that be great? I was just a little boy when my mom and dad divorced. Through my tantrums, cried my tears, I'd keep their vows by force. Now that I'm an older man, I see it had to be this way. My parents' love for me still grows each and every day. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though they're not the people that I expected they would be, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. "10 years, me and my wife, we traveled round the globe. Binding vows and shared mistakes, they filled our lives with hope. Then one day she tells me that a man is not for her. Those 10 years are a memory now, but my love for her still stirs. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. Every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though they're not the people I expected she would be, I love her all the same. I just want her to be free." My love had a little girl, a scrappy tomboy type. I watched her blossom like a flower, but she felt not quite right. Then one day she tells me she's a young man, not a girl. I picked her up and held her tight, then sent my son into the world. Time passed me by so swiftly, I could have been a better man. And every day I'm trying to do the best things that I can. And though he's not the person I expected he would be, I love him all the same. I just want him to be free. And though they're not the people that I expected they would be, well, I love them all the same. I just want them to be free. And I don't see why it can't be that easy. I don't see why it can't be that simple. I don't know why we need to have a war about it. I don't know why we need to have a culture war. I don't know why it matters. That every person who lives in this world, every person who's just been brought in here without our consent, without understanding what's going on, I don't think I'll ever understand why we continuously argue that people should not be free. Doesn't make sense to me. Thanks, Just JC. Thanks, Major. Because I know that each and every one of you and me and all of the people who we don't know and all the people who are gone and all of the people yet to come, we are all just aspects of the same energy that is responsible for our creation. And that when I'm talking to you and when you're talking to me, we are fundamentally equals with one another. Because we are equal in our validity. Not equal in our capability, the way that the idiotic right-wingers try to twist this conversation into, but equal in our validity. That we are born, randomly generated into the world, we have experiences, and then we die. And those experiences, regardless of what they are. Oh, are we back? Are we back? Somebody say in chat if we're back. Are we back? I think we're back. Just someone verify in chat. Had a little blink out. Had a little blink out. Isn't that interesting? Having a little blink out. Thanks, Uncle. Had a little blink out right as I was about to say the final line of that statement. I want to live in a society where we see each other as equally valid to one another. That I don't care about your race or sexual orientation or any of that. We're all equals to one another. And I'm sorry to hear this, Uncle. I just got out of the hospital. I had a mini stroke, probably from the juice. I've been having lots of conversations recently about alcohol. And everybody's drinking more, dude. Everybody's drinking more. I've been drinking more. That I've been trying really hard to limit myself, finding ways to get to kind of cut it off. But it's tough. These are tough times, right? And it's not like the society is trying to get us to drink less, right? It's not like we're trying to actually do something to actually help ourselves, right? The liquor stores are open. But it's hard to like alcohol deadens our senses and releases our inhibitions at the same time. And so all of the pain and the existential dread that is floating around us becomes less pressing when you're drunk. And it is a very appealing state of mind. To just be a little dumber. Yeah. I could use a little bit of just uncaring dumbness. I do believe, I believe very strongly that this society is going to enter a period of absurdism in its media. That popular media will become just abstract absurdisms. I see it within the Gen Z completely. Like, all of their humor is just in... Are we being throttled? I got the boot? I don't know, Uncle Bud. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with any of this shit. Who knows what's going to happen to us next? I actually am quite concerned about the rise of... did I keep this or did I delete it? Well, I'm actually quite concerned about the rise of Internet 3.0, right? Which is essentially a privatized internet that they're going to try to pawn us off on, right? They're going to try to make everything... they're going to try to not only have private... Like, the problem with the current model of the internet is that you can have privatized spaces like Facebook and Reddit and all of this, but anybody can still create a website and anybody can still disseminate any information they want on the internet. And so there is a degree of freeness. So the new internet that they're going to erect is where the infrastructure of the internet itself will be privatized. And so private interests, like think about your Jeff Bezoses and your Elon Musks, right, will own the infrastructure of the internet itself. And so if you try to make a website or if you are a commentator that doesn't go along with these private investors, what do you think is going to happen to you? Right? This is the next level. Like, they're not going to shut the internet down. They're just going to control the internet. And far more deeply than they are now. Right? Far more deeply than they are now. That is the future of the internet. That men like me will be off on the fringes saying, like, yeah, the internet, you used to be able to say what you like. You used to be able to have a political opinion. You could even be wildly unpopular in your opinions. But you were allowed to say it. Not when it's privatized. Not when it's privatized. This is why I'm saying we need to surround the halls of power now. Because this is the stuff that's coming for us. Like, and we know. Like, we shouldn't bullshit ourselves. Right? Like, these guys have been walking around for 40 years talking about how they want to privatize everything. Right? They've been very explicit about it. Well, you think the internet isn't part of that? Like, we're in a very dark moment as a people. We're in a very, very dark moment as a people. And if we don't stand up now and actually do something about it, we're going to be scratching our heads in the rubble wondering what happened. Like, this doesn't end well for us. There is no path forward outside of surrounding the halls of power
and ceasing our participation in this that ends well. That all of the narratives that are being presented to us as solutions are not very different than let's just angle the car differently as we drive towards the cliff. No one is saying hit the brakes. No one is saying jump out of the car. No one is saying stop participating in the forward momentum of this vehicle. The best we are getting is maybe we can ramp over the cliff. Maybe we can angle so that we will drive off a lower part of the cliff. And all of that is just complete disaster. Sorry, Uncle Bud, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And chuds are going to believe this is a communist takeover and China is behind this. I can already see this. Yeah. I mean, for goodness sakes, they call Biden a communist. Like, if you're so, like, out to lunch, like, if you're so disconnected from what's going on in serious ways that you are seriously calling people like Trudeau and Biden communists, like, oh boy. Like, when a real communist shows up, you guys are going to really lose your minds. Like, if this is where they're at now. And, like, Trudeau and Biden are basically right-wing, like, they're basically right-wingers. Like, 60 years ago, Justin Trudeau and Biden would have been considered, like, red Tories. Like, Biden would have been considered a moderate Republican. Like, the only way to control the masses is to burn the books. The internet is the equivalent of those books. Yeah, I think you're onto it, Isaac. I don't know, bud. You're on your own when it comes to that. Sorry, bud. Yeah, Biden's stealing Syrian oil. Yeah, they've been stealing Syrian oil the whole time. They've been stealing. Like, what do you think the invasion into the Middle East was? Like, they're trying to steal oil. Like, they're always trying to steal oil. Like, that's the reason why they need to put such heavy sanctions on Venezuela, because they can't steal that oil, right? Like, Venezuela has one of the largest oil deposits on the planet. And it's good oil, too. It's not like the shitty tar sands oil. It's literally like the oil that you put a straw in the ground and the oil comes up, right? So, like, well, that's not very communist of them. But this is the thing, is that these guys would say that it is, right? Because they don't know what communism is. Like, they don't actually understand the subject, right? Like, this is why they'll say these things where, like, oh, it's communism. Then you'll be like, can you define communism? And they just can't. Like, they literally can't. Because they don't know anything. Get rid of Twitter. So, here's an interesting article that actually gets published in the Toronto Star. Time to end free ride for highly profitable corporate elite. This is by Beatrice Brusque. In 2021, food insecurity rose. Energy and transportation costs skyrocketed, and Canadians worried about how to stretch their paychecks to cover the costs for family essentials. But Canada's big banks and giant corporations were immune from such concerns. Canada's banks raked in astounding combined profits of almost $58 billion in 2021. RBC alone made $16 billion. On average, bank profits grew by a remarkable 46% in 2021. Canada's largest corporations were also immune from petty concerns about having to decide between buying groceries, paying for needed medication, or affording their rent. Corporate profits grew by $103 billion in 2021, an astonishing 37%, and the largest yearly increase since the 1980s. Canada's top bankers also weren't worried about bills. Their average annual pay and bonuses was $9 million. Compare that to the typical Canadian worker who gets about $50,000 a year, or $961.60 per week. And things are getting worse. Canada's latest food price guide estimates an average family will see its grocery bill rise 5 to 7% next year, more than $900. Transportation, energy, and housing costs are also all on the rise. Even before the pandemic, Canadians were seeing the gap between them and those at the top widen. The Parliamentary Budget Office recently reported that income disparity in Canada was getting worse, with the top 1% share of family wealth increasing by around 5 percentage points from 1999 to 2019. So when conservative economists and columnists argue for austerity and complain about Canada not being able to afford help for struggling families, what are they really saying? They're saying the status quo is working out just fine for them and their friends. In the last election, Liberals proposed a modest new tax on banks and insurance companies. What was Bay Street's response to these profitable companies being asked to do a little bit more to contribute to Canada's recovery? We heard dire warnings of job losses and rate hikes to protect their profits. We heard scaremongering about how retirees rely on share income to live. Let's be clear. The profits these companies and corporations are saying they need to preserve are not reasonable. And the big banks' share prices they want to protect increased by a whopping 49% last year alone. The pandemic revealed how our social safety net and public health care system were in dire need of strengthening. The government's priority now should be doing more to help families and invest in things like childcare, pharmacare, long-term care, and making housing costs more affordable. Not cutting spending to protect outrageous corporate pandemic profiteering. The tax Liberals proposed on the campaign trail, just covering banks and insurance companies' earnings over $1 billion, is the least that they should do. A country's balance sheet is not just an accounting exercise. It shows our vision and values. Tuesday's economic and fiscal update should not only implement the promised bank tax, it should go further and take action on fair taxation so our government can invest in bolstering our social safety net and make sure Canada is ready to withstand the next crisis, whenever it comes. Canadians, watching while the profits of the big banks and giant corporations rise at record rates, deserve no less. Beatrice Brusque is president of the Canadian Labour Congress. Follow her on Twitter, @PresidentCLC. I beat the communists, Biden 2020, exactly. And how many times, Biden has said he's not a communist. It's just what do we expect, though? What do we expect of, the people who are saying that Joe Biden is a communist? These guys watch Tucker Carlson. They don't know anything. We are experiencing a transfer of wealth from the populace to the billionaire class that was built into the system since the 80s, right? The 80s is when the process of neoliberal capital began. The systematic extraction of wealth from the society, structurally built in, with the lie that it was all going to trickle down. The trickle down isn't coming. It doesn't exist. It doesn't even have a mathematical basis, right? There is no mathematical basis for there is no mathematical basis for trickle-down economics. It doesn't actually work. And now we are getting to a point where the extraction process is accelerating, that the pandemic has accelerated this extraction process. And our political class is doing everything it can to facilitate the extraction process. And when it comes time for Canadians to actually fight back against this extraction process, The billionaire class has already told us that it is going to leave the country with its ill-gotten gains and abandon us. They've already said it. And there's a great line in here where they said we heard dire warnings of job losses and rate hikes to protect their profits. Right? This is why the capitalists need to be removed from the conversation completely. Because once we start talking about like, hey, maybe we should distribute things in a more fair manner, right? Maybe the workers shouldn't be completely abandoned during this process of extraction, right? We get threats, right? We heard dire warnings of job losses. This is hostage taking. That they are threatening to render people unemployed. They are threatening to take away people's living, right? And rate hikes rate hikes, literally just telling us that they're going to raise prices, right? We heard scaremongeries about how retirees live on shared income to live. Like literally, that's a nice shared income system you have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Like, this is mafia shit. Like, these are psychopathic thugs who need to be removed from the conversation. Right? They just need to be removed from the conversation. I'm glad to see that this article is getting published, but the reality is like, until I start seeing articles, where people are straight up like calling for a fucking revolution, like not like asking nicely, not asking for permission, right? Did you see the new TikTok trend? People are calling their jobs and quitting. Yeah, and they should. Everybody should quit their job. And if you can't quit your job, you should organize a strike and a union effort. And if you can't do that, then you should sabotage your workplace. I know, buddy. I know, buddy. Right? We should sabotage our workplace. Exactly. Yeah, Milo's in favor. He's letting us all know. We need to cease our participation in this. Like, the only way to break a mass hysteria is to stop participating in it, is to get in the way, is to clog the machine so that it can't work and it can't function, right? And I'm glad to see that there's a TikTok trend of people calling their jobs and quitting. I'm glad to see that anti-work is starting to pick up as a place for people to go and vent their frustrations. I'm glad. Like, this system doesn't work in fundamental ways. Like, it's literally failing to accomplish what like tribal societies accomplished. Like, really think about the depravity of the failure. Really think about the depth of the failure. That like ancient tribal societies were able to feed and shelter their citizens. Like, we now have anthropologists coming out and talking about the Middle Ages, right? The medieval period, and basically saying that like, yeah, medieval peasants worked less than we do. There's this great, if you read A Christmas Carol, the character of Bob Cratchit, right? Well, they tell you how much he's paid. And when you do the mathematics in order to find out how much Bob Cratchit, the epitome of working poverty, right, in a tale about rich people versus poor people and the corrupting force of wealth, right? Bob Cratchit, the epitome of poverty, when you do the mathematics, was making $10,000 more annually than a minimum wage worker in America. We are a depraved people. We have fallen further than medieval Europeans. Like, really put this together. Really put together how degenerate we are. And depraved is exactly the right word. I mean, just take a look at Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is completely depraved. We can stop shopping for things that we're not able to sell during the year. Just stop shopping for things. Stop buying these goddamn toys. Just stop. Like, just stop buying the goddamn toys. Like, this is what's embarrassing about the conversation, right? Like, our grandparents sacrificed their lives in a war effort. They sacrificed their lives in a war effort in order to go and overseas and fight in a fucking war where they like shot each other with fucking guns and dropped bombs on one another, right? That was the sacrifice our grandparents were asked to make. We're being asked to sacrifice our toys. Fucking our toys. Literally like private jets, yachts so you can park yachts in them, like individual penis rockets, right? Big giant trucks that are as big as World War II tanks. Like, that's what we're being asked to sacrifice. And we refuse. We are children. We are children. This is a childish nation caught in a fucking mass hysteria. On the same level as like a kid clapping his hands, getting excited for Christmas presents. Like, that's where we are. It's weird because in 2018, Tucker Carlson was the only person in the media that took up for AOC and backed her on taxing Amazon to fund infrastructure. Yeah, what they're doing with Carlson is a bit odd. Like, Carlson is being permitted to say all kinds of weird stuff that nobody else on Fox is allowed to say. I don't really understand it, honestly. John, get me a job as a spy. Contact me. Dude, I wish I was working for someone. Are you kidding me? My life would be a lot easier. It would be a lot easier. No, dude, I'm just a guy. I'm loosely affiliated with a group called Socialist Action. You can find it in my description, right? Like, I'm not like Vosh. I'm not a CIA informant or anything like that. Right? Like, it's just me. Like, quite literally. And honestly, I think that if I was like working for some institution or something, I wouldn't be successful, right? Like, I don't think I would be a very good shill. I don't think I would shill very well, right? I just can't help but tell the truth. That's the problem. Right? That's the problem. Like, when did it become a far left position to say that everyone should have food and shelter? Can we kind of pinpoint a time when that happened? When it became like this extravagant far left, like communist exclusive position? Right? When did it become like a super far left position to say that everybody deserves to have food and shelter? When did we deviate from like medieval peasants? When did we deviate from like literal like chieftain societies? Like, why do we accept this? Like, why are we accepting this narrative at all? That people have to earn food and shelter? What are you fucking talking about? Like, what are you actually fucking talking about? Oh, Vosh is my evil twin. Please do not connect me to fucking Vosh. Vosh is just like a shock jock, man. I was reading up on the socialist coup. Is this real? I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Like, I'm literally the only person in North America saying that we need to surround the halls of power. Like, everybody else seems to like not be able to get this through their heads. Like, nothing's going to happen until like the White House and the Parliament buildings are surrounded. The way that Occupy happened, right? It's got to be that same energy. But instead of wasting your time with the psychopaths on Wall Street, you need to go face up with the cowards, right? Like, these politicians are just cowards. Oh, you saw it on Google. The internet said so it's got to be true, right, bud?
Yeah. No suicidal shit or whatever, but sometimes I look at this world and just don't feel like participating. The corporate socialists had their coup a long time ago. Yeah. I mean, like, America is an oligarchy, right? Like, it is an oligarchy. Justin Trudeau's socialist coup. I mean, all right, let's engage. We've only got 10 minutes left on the stream, and I've run out of stuff. So, Justin Trudeau's socialist coup. Oh yeah, Toronto Sun. There's a great source, dude. Like, if it's coming out of the Toronto Sun or the National Post, you can basically be assured that it's, like, going to be nutty. So, let's take a look at how nutty this is going to get. Canada in the midst of a socialist coup. That's cute. I think you have to be in hysterics to believe that there is a coup going on. As the Trudeau Liberals continue to be rightly criticized by Conservatives for leading Canada into socialism, an embarrassing sentence to begin with. This sentence is a total embarrassment. Like, you discredit yourself as a thinker by even writing this. Like, for real. I don't need to go any farther. The idea that Justin Trudeau is leading Canada into socialism is hysterics. Like, hysterics. Like, literally, like a person sitting in the corner being like, Canada's gonna be a socialist nation soon. It's a socialist nation. Justin Trudeau's leading us into socialism. Like, that's what we're talking about. Straight up. Like, name one thing that Justin Trudeau has done that you could describe as socialist. Like, maybe his initial response to the pandemic, where he passed the CERB, but he's worked to dismantle it as swiftly as he erected it. So, an American professor, who was once a Marxist, now says that after traveling the globe, that socialism doesn't work. So this is a straight up propaganda piece. After visiting more than 110 countries to pursue various forms of research, notable cultural anthropology, Jack Strouder described his conversion from Marxism as a process of disillusionment. I gradually became disenchanted with Marxism by visiting many of the countries that had tried to shape their societies to conform to its doctrine. I was disillusioned by the reality as I saw socialist countries, the USSR, Eastern Europe, China, Cuba. Right? This is one of these classic stories where you go to a place that calls itself socialist as neoliberal capitalists destroy it, and you say, I guess socialism doesn't work. Like, it's clueless hysteria, right? Like, it's literally garbage. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau obviously needs to travel more because his PM father, an admirer of China going back to Mao, friend of Cuba's Fidel Castro, was more Marxist in his political thinking than a Democrat. Another professor, Florin Curta of the University of Florida, was raised in communist-controlled Romania, where he grappled with empty stores, power outages, an oppressive government that frowned on creativity, the concept of free enterprise. Again, like, grew up under the iron fist of Romanian President Nicolae Ceausescu, whose dictatorship was, and they always say dictatorship. Isn't that funny? Right? All of these guys are elected. Like, all of these guys. Like, there were elections. They're just not the hysteria-driven elections of the West. So they don't count. Yeah. I spent long hours before Christmas 1989. Are you kidding me? That's literally like the period of neoliberal infiltration, right? So this is like this is a dark, brutal propaganda piece, like absolutely vicious, because it's completely omitting the actions of capitalists, right? Just put everything to blame on the communists. Forget about the fact that they're fighting a literal war. Like, forget about that. Don't pay any attention to that. Right? As long as you don't pay any attention to what the West is doing and what capitalists are doing, and just pretend as though the problems that exist in the society are exclusively because of the leadership and communists, you can make any claim you like. Right? You can make any claim you like. So as long as you lie, duplicitously,
right? And publish it in a like far right rag like this. You can say whatever you like. Do you guys read the Toronto Sun there? I mean, it's good for a laugh. We use it as toilet paper. Like this is literally an embarrassing article. Like it's just propaganda. Like a guy went to a place as the neoliberals were dismantling it and said the communism doesn't work. Like, what the fuck is wrong with your brain? I was once a Christian and now I believe religion doesn't work. I mean, organized religion is a problem for sure. Anyway, we don't have time to get into that conversation, Grinning, honestly. Anyone could be a Marxist, not hard to get in. Oh, I don't know if you... Who'd you offend, Just JC? What'd you say? Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Wow, you're better looking than Vosh and make more sense, so there's that. Well, JC, how are you doing? I will say, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm happy if you say that I'm like Vosh is my evil twin. Like, the shit that this guy says is creepy. Like, Vosh is just kind of a creep, you know? And that's really all it is. Like, he's just kind of a creep. Like, his statements on Julian Assange are creepy, right? Like, he literally says, like, I want Julian Assange to be tortured because it would set off the worst people on Twitter. Like, that's a person who has no moral center. He's just a shock jock. He's just saying things to be heard, right? Ugh. This is an embarrassing article, dude. Milo. Come on, dude. That's okay, buddy. That's okay. I could see that, like, this line, for example. I could see the same pattern in many failed left-wing revolutions of Latin America and elsewhere. But, like, there's no, like, definitive anything. And, like, the history of Latin America is literally a history of colonization, right? It is a history of Latin America attempting to seize control of its own country after being destroyed by literally centuries, incidentally, of colonization. And to pretend as though what you're seeing and what you're experiencing in Latin American countries is the result of socialism is to engage in total delusion, right? Total delusion. Like, you literally got to just, like, not acknowledge intellectualism in your brain. Like, you discredit yourself as a thinker if you are walking around saying, like, yeah, the poverty I'm seeing is because of socialism, not in spite of it, right? Like, literally, capitalists come in, murder leadership, install fascists, right? Round people up, enslave them, create torture centers, but socialism's the problem. No, Milo, he came with the name Milo. I wanted to rename him Burger, but he was so distraught. I got him after a couple broke up, and they knew that they wouldn't be able to take care of them independently, and it's a tumultuous time and all this kind of stuff. And I think they got him to kind of save the relationship, you know what I mean? And so I ended up with him, and he was so distraught, like, he was so sad that we couldn't rename him. Like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. So it stuck with Milo. I would have named him Burger. He's a burger. He's a fucking burger, man. I don't think I'm going to play that, so we'll get rid of it. Frank Zappa. Without music to decorate it, time is just a bunch of boring production deadlines or dates by which bills must be paid. Guys, I gotta stop and pause and just say, like, I'm so grateful that you guys are here, right? Like, I'm so grateful that you guys are here. Like, one of the great blessings of this channel has always been that there's always been someone on the other side of this. That I'm not just talking into a vacuum, right? Like, I've talked to people who have tried to do this kind of stuff. I've talked to people who have tried to and who have started, YouTube channels and things like this. And all of them have the story of how, like, yeah, like some nights I would just, like, no one would be there. I would just do my thing, right? Do my show, and it would just be to no one. And I've never had that. I've always had someone on the other side. I've always, from the beginning of the cast, there's someone there, and at the end, there's someone there. And given how, like, short a period of time I've been doing this, I consider that to be an amazing blessing. I feel incredibly blessed to be able to speak what I consider to be the truth and to have anybody listen. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that you guys are here. I'm so grateful to be able to pursue this in a serious way. Yeah, exactly, Isaac. Cuba has been under relentless economic persecution for 62 years, and they don't have homelessness. Only country in Latin America to develop COVID vaccine. Yep. We like being here for you, John. Good night. Good night to you, Rob. Good night to you. Please, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit all those bells, hit all those whistles. This channel has several thresholds that it's about to go through, and I can feel that it's going to happen. Threshold number 1 is the 1,000 subscriber. That's a big one. The rules change for me once we pass through the threshold of 1,000, right? That means that I get access to new tools, means that the channel gets to start monetizing, means that the type of communication that we can have in the chat changes, right? I get access to things like Super Chat, this kind of stuff. And I'm also heading towards a threshold of concurrent viewers. That I've never gotten 20 concurrent viewers, but I'm ruddering up to it. It's beginning to happen. And I don't think that does anything for me, but it'd be nice. Just JC, I found you via the very worst person in the world. He's good for something after all. Well, as they say, there's no such thing as bad press. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being, standing around in quantum energy. The billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the vain hope that you won't realize it. Don't let them. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.